Right. Tau whawhetai ko bia ko tau mau e mo ui a koe ni. Tau ko kore peke u whanga pe mu ai ngahi whamalmalu mo ngahi tala whatapu o ku whaki atu me ngahi polokalama pe ni. Ka ko taritari fia ki mo tolu i he whata koe ni ke whakahoko atu ai polokalama o ku ui koe hala whanonga ki Whaaimata ua awhi ua pe koe RoadToFaaimata 2022. Wa te whakaapapalahi au pito ki a Hamatapure, ho eki, ka umaa kau taki pureanga, ka umaa kau paresteni, o kau taha ko tutuku ai hako maalunga o Tonga, o kau koris tutuku hono kotoa, o kumo mea mai ki polokalama koeni. Ko polokalama koeni o whakahoko atuia me Meripoane, Vikatoria, ka kimua ta mau hoko atu o kou kore ki he whaiwhekau Sylvia, a kau ola tongo ke ne tamata a kimua hatau lotu. Malo Sylvia.
Malo au bito sane. I he polokalama o e hala whanonga ki Whaaimata. O ku tau nofo pe tau tokanga i he mahu inga o e ako. Ko ngai ua. Uluaki, mahu inga au pito he tau mua o e ako ke ne whakaha i ngahi koloa fufu o ku i he mo ui ai toko taha kotoa pe. Tamasi pe ta ahine kotoa pe. Ka koe konga honoa o ku hanga e he tau mua o e ako o whakaivia mo whakaai ai. Ai to utangata o e ahoni ke whakaawange ngahi matapa, ngahi whainga maarie, ma ai to utangata ka hoko. That's what education does. Ko uki rewa ai Tonga High School pia mo ene moto, ke tau whai aki, ho tau Lelei Taha maupe, ai ongo tau mua o e ako. Ke tau loto. O tua koe ofa, malo e mau koloa o e mo ui mau inasi ai he hoa koe ni. Malo e mau ngahi tare niti, mo ngahi whaunga o ku whai aki e mau mo ui. Mau whamalo o hao peo mau ngahi whamiri, pia hao mo mau ki whanua tupu anga me he whaingata a whakamaman lahi o COVID tahiwa. Koe houani o mau whakawhi i ho lau maari e. Ke ne tataki mo whakamawhana i ho mau loto mo mau atamai i he pō Talanoa o e houani. I he ofa mo i piki uma mo i kāinga koristutuku kotoa peo e api ako Tonga High School i tu atonga. Mo i te waki o i kātoanga ki he uafe uoua. Tau kau whataha kia mo i awhiona mo lau maari e. He ahoni pia whai mawai pe. Amen.
Amen. Malo.
Malo a pito whaiwhekau. Hange koia kua mo whanongoa i he tatatai whare pia mo lotu kua tataki a ki tau tolu koe uki e. Koe uki e ke whai ho tau Lelei Taha. Tau te whito ki e ako. He poke i ako pe o au mai pe ke ahoni. Neongo ku tau mawahe me o tau ako anga. Ka tau ke i ako pe. Ka koutuko te whainga maari e koe ni mo kātaki ke mo whawhiloaki mai pe a ki mo tolu. O kou ilo pe, o kou mea mai e kau mamata i e o pe, koe toko whaa e ni kou whakawhi ke nau kau mai ke polokalama koe ni me Meripoane i ahoni. Koe e whiawhi toko naki e ni aho hongfulu maa Taha Septema uawhi ua Taha i he wheitu hemisfia sau te. Ka kou whakawhi i he ni a tapani mangisi kene kamata mai mua. Kou hi ngahi whiho i pēna o si tuku atu. Whakahaa pe ke mo katake o whakahaa mai ho mo hingoa. Pea mo i kolo, pea mo wheitu na mo mea mai me iai. Ka he uma a whoki ai tau na ke huai ki he Tonga High School ki ako maalunga Tonga. Pea mo ta'u na ke osi me ai, pea mo haonga hi manatu me rie pe, e aonga ke tau po Talanoa ko ia i he whiawhi koe ni. Pea kai ke ngata ai, ko ki tau tolu fo ki koe ni, tau whakautua katoa i Meripoane. Pe ko whē e ta'u na ke hiki mai ai ki heni ki Meripoane ni, pea koe hārewa o ngā ue, pe ko haha o ngā i whatongia ki he kehe o whakahoko i whonua koe ni. Pea koe hā e ngahi manatu me rie ki ai ke hanga lava whaka hā ke ki he kau mamata mai he ope. Māloa pito tapani.
Malo pe to sane ba fainga malia pe te kore ke hu fanga pe fatapu. O ko fie ma pe fai loki pe mo ki moto ko e ka fine ka to pe moto ko ta ta pe ni. Ka ko blau pe ai ka gai fine ko to i me ha pia ko tau te fito ki ta ko na ki ha pia ko ai hanga pe ko sane. O ko ya ma fitu ta mo sane me mo ma tuake me ai ki haan pea ki he tawhapua ki tawhaki o ko look upon e ki he kakai whiwhine kātoa me he apia Tonga High School o whangatua whawhi pea te tau koe mo e tamai tangata ko whangatoko ua pea mo whanga tau kere mo whangatehina pea ko fia mau pehe wheloa ki mo tolu tau te whito ke whahinga koni hange peko e mā mo sela oku ne kake peta tau e mo whai whekau na mo toki hoa mo toki hako ua wholoa e mā ose mā wai e masane ka hange peko ki ai e ongo i kehe ia ki tau tolu e tau iloi a tau hoko ko whaamiri pe Taha i he apia ko Tonga High School ako mārunga Tonga. Pea o tu o ngoi ta tau pe katoa pe mo o kai ko atu ko ta pe mo tau students katoa. Pai ke ko hi ko tunga konyo tau i henia he fiafini. Pena fi mau foki ke ong ha whamatala ki ngahi mea ke he manatu meri, manatu mahi, manatu tamaki, ke taimina te, ena kai ke tau mau ai whainga ango ta tau pe koe, whieako ta tau pe koe, kai ke whieako. O tau ke he kātoa. Ui kai ke pe ko au pe mo tau tolu koe ni, koe kātoa ai whainga na nau hū ke apiako, o tau koe ngai whakafo i tui kātoa i tau tolu. Tau tawe fo i Talanoa. Ko kuingoa ka son tapan mangis. Pea o hau me i hawakatolo i hifo i tonga tapu. Koe ku ongo mātua tulo ko tamai ko sione mangis me i hawakatolo pe. Pea mo e whine iki koe whiwhine me i wawau, nei afu wawau. Pea ko whakatonga ifo ki a lolohea e kau paionia ko nā mai whakataha me whitu ta tau pe ko ka meri. Pa ko tui pe una whilongaki i hena tawhaki whakawawau. Ka pau tau pe ta tolu koe ki motrisi pia tonga tapu o toi mahau toi ki sisi anga wawau. Pa tana toi lahenga na whilongaki. Ake ki nā tō kake, koe nā mai pe me whi nā ia nā whironga. Kake, ko kuingo ai e pia o kongo mātua, pia mo au whoki. Pena hū ke hapia ko i he tau tahiwa ano noa, ke tau tahiwa ono nima. Ka mataanga ono noa, ke osi ono nima. Hai ko tau kakato ia nima. Pia ko pehe ko tau koe ni, ko waha tau koe ni o ono noa ki ono nima. Nā lahi ange, o koe ko atu o tāpe. Ko tau tolu ko atoa, ko taimi lahi tāni nā tau hanga whakamoreki i he lotonga pe koe haonga o whahinga kulupu ete mo ui hono katoa. It's the longest amount of concentrated time you spend with a group of people. He tau e nima. Ha big he te mātua te vita ki apo kaipa te whahate ki homoeka, tarat peu whahate homoeka, te lau toi ke hita, pa te mohe hita. This is the most concentrated time that we have spent with a group of people. Pea o ko fia ha pito ke kalasgon na mātou na mahua tu gon ko he Taiwan noa. Mana mau to ngo tu si pe ma ko to rua e ku mana tui. Pea ko foi tau ko ni o ku ni hanga, it's the most formative years of to kamata pe ni ko te ako teu pe no ai a pekita mo me ko te alko ko ke te kamata ke secondary school kamata ke mafoa ke kita ngai me ke me he te hu ke ako o mai no mai ko tai me ni it's teenager you o gia ngai me o tonu ke te hanga ki ai o gia ka ha o ki kai ke te ke no wai pe ako every day is just another day. This is the time when one begins to look into the future of his life or his or her life. But I behave one I go for our here, I doubt Kagaton. Pemo, Telki Hormui, Katago or Corfamor Moreado, Heco Tau, Hinga Fogetau for Matala, when you get out for Matala, Tau Nahi experiences. Pea of Wotomua Korea Bay, Yakimoto, Goni, Piamo, Kaufano no Katoa, we kai ko fie kai mu aeni more ke mamao pe ko ha te fie you know ko to Korea tonga tonu be lo iko fie kai mu ai pe ko fie te fie ha. We want, and I think everybody wants to know the truth of your life. What was it like? What did it mean to you? Anything or next to nothing, or you know what was it about? Did you like about the school or not like about the school? Te mo kataki na whaiwhai ka pea kore kia ki motoron ka ko maha ko ki he mau ko ko menu nau fie mau pea tau whawhua pe mia i ko mea ni ko ka pau ko o whanau ki o ko fie mau o ko fie lo pe koe hai whakau ai whai te kau e taim ko ni ko hai whakau e tō taha ko tau ma wholo ko tō halo he the diaspora. We want to know all these things. And mo kataki ya ko hu fanga tu pe ko whamatala pe ni ke ta Talanoa we ko ha fie poto pe ko fie ha pe ko fie kai mo. Okay. Ko ku whare aia ko hui ki ai he Taiwan noa ke Taiwan ni ma. O se Taiwan ni ma. Pea ai ku me ai pe ka whanongo pa mo ta tolu ko tau ia na e halai e kunisalote. Penau kau I he kau tengi hia whamui mui ako mau a whanua penau kau ai he alu ai apia ko tatau pemu apia ko ke he o tau te malai ku lao o whakaere ai tui tonga kuisalote. Pea o skoia pau alo ia ki no sila he pui e pura ngā. Kau toki whoki mai ki ai ko whare nau iai ko sāngone, pena ko hinga pe e ku go the blues, Ko latu ko hinga koe nau wihe whare e ko sāngone, ko hinga nau laki ai tua lau angai koe ki motoro mo ko tamalahi ake I ua ki mua iau, ko tamasi lahia mautoro. Son tua lau mangis na e hui aki ahi, pea tu ose e tahi wano Taha. Kana e osi ai, pea toki hua tua koe ki ai he anonoa me anonima. Pa nana whare loa I sāngone. Pa ko hinga pena, ka kia winga o peheko sa I hala. As a matter of fact, my favorite color happens to be blue. But that was by the way. Now alu pehe ki ai ko hi koe continuity if you like. Yeah. Ko whanonga atu e ki mui he whakarea halai walu, that's a younger sister of mine. nai sangone pe fulai ai mui he me ko to pe pe hiki o alu ka fare u sai ake ko kava o no foi kai ke I stuck it up with sangone only because my two other brothers were there te toki foki pai o fill out a little bit ki he wongo I ko he apia ko ngai me ko but you know give everybody an introduction for a bit so that was sangone na kai highlights here fe fa ki a wongo I pe go fia o ko lava hange ko ki fia make pe fat like whanongo he ngai whamatala pēni. Nā iai ki secretly, o te ki hange pe, o te ki hi ki sia pe, whakalongolongo pe I a ki tae te ngoi, nā te, o te lava. Nobody else gets in there, not everybody gets there, you know. But koe lava pe I a sivi, koe lava any sivi koe, probably less than 1% e kātoa e ka kaitonga. O whanau he whamatala lātu tapueluelu, lātu tupo tapueluelu, nai he Tonga High School ki mua tuea, mana kas whatahu tō lau mea. I he nea ngoi, koi ato ka tāpena hea mui wawau he tau koia. And in fact what it means is that ko koi o kuke poto taha tau pehe. Again, I beg to maluatu he tau Talanoa. O wika ko hawhi haia pa ko whi poto. O iai pe te ki o ngoi, hange pe ko ngoi ko e lātu tupo later tapuluelu. Ko ia roa taha pena e lava mange I wawau ki Tonga High School. Pea mahalo nai pe a e ongo I e uhila moelangi rea waa, ko ia nai uloki huu mai me hea mato. Pea ko nge ko ia mo wiloi, paku I loi pe me he whai whekau, ko uloki toko taha ia me hifo ke hau ki Tonga High School. Kamata mea uhila rea waa. Pea toki konga ki mui e hanga e hawakato loia dominate for a while. Pea mahalo kei pepe. Ta mei, I kau toko lahi koe me ki mai me hifo ki a Tonga High School. But anyway, sangone. And my highlights at school, na iai pefo mea taha nau saya, nau Talanoa pe ki he ko tau tolu pepe, kai ke he ko tano ki ako. Pau te hufu ki ai, pau kamata pe ke te ki taka whakasiosio pe ko hai whangi tamai ko, tamai ke whine mahalo te sai ai pe kai. Pe te nau sai ai a kita pe kai. Kono mo niu kamata ki hau ki a kita ai manako whine, tau rea maa pe. He koe anga pe e tau nofo, koe mea whakanatula pe e, pa koe mea whakawhoofa. Tau koe te attract of the two, from the two, between the two genders. Ka koe tau mai ana, ia haki whine e whia whakamanifi mai ki au ke mamaheni. Hala ata, tako au toko, mahalo koe ofa whai toko taha e ni, koe huinga ni koe. Kai kehe, o ku te whia alata whahate ki whaamaari atu ki tamai ki te kalasi. He mwe mehe kalasi, kuru nau taramana doria. Oh, even one of the girls here, pe maalamnia nau whaha ki au. Ta pani ko mana tui ho whaalo o whia whaamaari atu ki tamai ki kori suewhine. Kai ke te ilo lamnia ko whinga ke whaamaari atu ki nau tōru. Ka tukua ki e nia ko whia whaamaari ki tamai ki kori suewhine. But anyway, pea na kai ke poto ahe ako, ka ko te talatu mo whi mea koni in qualification of that. Poto pe kai, na ko hūko ki he Tonga High School, you are one of maybe less than 1% of all of Tonga that goes to Tonga High School. Pe ona ke pehe ange ko au, ni ango pena mui kalasi, me pehe, o tu pena kai ke mui a puito mahana loto pe ki mui. O kuke o si sai koe, kuke o si kau koe he lau. So let's not be too unkind to people like me. But anyway, ko me pe tahna usai ai, ko fai sipoti pa tolonge foi pulu ko mea taha ia whaka tolo pulu mama wha shot put mo he mo lere mo half walk was we know ko mea nau sae ko hunga tolonge foi pulu kirikiti pena puke ia le koti ko ia for a very long time tau toki whanongo atu Talanoa mai i ngā sport whaka ko tai beni ko pia osia paho au gino sila o tonga gino sila ko whanongo atu o kia le koti o tamatei i foi sport ko ni pa ku mahu inga ko foi sport ko ni e tai beni ko na ke pare mi ai mo minista ako atu pofa pa ku tamba sport fo ke tama pare mi ai tango ya pe ku lotonga ia ne tama o sio ki he ne apia ko mo ka wa ko pa fo pa ku tola ia pe mo ka na u fa pura na fa ke entourage pana ia ho to wala hi ko to ala pa ku ma sion to ala mangi sia ka sion tapan mangi sia pa fai ko to lo bulu e mea o my record was broken na ha ko fa ta mai o lau ai tana ki tu nga ko o spoti o tu vai ko tama commentator fa mata mai pe ya honi ka fia au pito ke ngai le ko ti ko to he a honi ka he ni mo tama pare mia o mea tonu ki tau spoti pa ko si taha ngai le ko ti tu fo lo taha i civic sport ko ni ko tolo pulu cricket tolo pulu kirikiti. Tau fia a honi he ni a toko taha koia. Sa tā bangisi. Ko au ia. Ka kai whuka ia tu haka tua lau ia, pa kui he ni toko taha tu haka tua lau ia, ka taki mua son tua lau, sa tā bangisi o mea ki o lunga o take a pau. Pa tu haka rewa tua lau o. Ko ki foi mea pe ia taha nau sai ai. Pa matoki whailogia ma tua lau he walungofu tupu i tai walungofu tupu ne hao whaine ki whainga i Queensland Uni. Pa matau toa te pā taha whai mai nupia pangatua. Palau, ko hae mea da hoko ki hei. Naka si hanga peo i loi. O koe ko koe naka reko ti ko au na reko ti. Pe matua. Tapani. Ki tau tō tu o whakatonu e mea, o whihalaki, koe fu pare mea aina, fu prinsena o mea mai e mea. Koe ke taonga tau tō mai o tau tono whaka. Mahalo e na establishment officer, o whakatonu e tau whihalaki. Tuko i peke alo e mea ke ose foi Talanoa. Ka tau whakatonu ki mui. And I had to tell him as words, ko ose whoke foi mea ai. Mani, ka pangu au e nau tu pea whakatonu. But anyway, so be that as it may, mahalo ko ki be na sai ai. The rest of it, na malo pe na kake fuko sai au ke ako na. I'd rather be somewhere else. My thought bubbles were elsewhere, but I was there, and I. Ko mea pe taha na mahalo me oske me ako me ai I tahi wa ononima na form 4 pe au. Na kake wa wia o osi ki ako hange ko tainu fuko ia ko alaka ene mea ia o form 5 pe tu ia I lower my upper 5th pe tu oria pe tu ia mo form 6 ia o ilo sa ne kamata ana ukau au ia he hu ko he tahi wa ma ko tahi wa no fa na kamata ia civi lower I had civi high living ko Tonga High School pe ai mo le fa tonga kau he curriculum pe mau kamata ai ni kamata ko pa mahalo ko tau taiwa no nima ai na osi ai ko me ako na kamata e si ko o higher living pa hu le vao si higher living pe ko hi ke mau ho ki fokai longa pa pe and I was like na pa pas pe obviously o tau ma ta toluia ai certain consideration ko hi ko tawaka Tonga High School pe mahalo na sai pe mo maka o ma fanga maria ko o hau the apprenticeship scheme I put out in New Zealand. I'll carry on from that, but kako mahalo ko kumea pe ta ko malo pe mo o wa o po I my only regret ko kai ke CV na ui ko CV New Zealand school certificate. Pea mahalo ta tau pe mo lolo hea I ene me kaupaionia. I read with interest in the whakamatala ko de for regret pe taha tu ke ne whakamalo ia hono a ko ia apia ko. Pe kai ke ne ai in the school certificate. Pe mo was lo pe mo tolu ka to me ne kai ke ne ai ko ai in the school certificate. Ta ko ko tu unga whakapanga ne ke lava ko ne ia no on Taha, two of her siblings were following. They just couldn't afford it. Very bad. Pea hokoai ta mono hanga he pure ako marapo katare di tako o offer them o hanga ene ngau pea kai ke sivi school C kai alu ki training college. It's the same type of scenario, but for different reasons. Anyway, asana te ki ngatai kai hokua te tau prokalama ka tau toki lere mai taka he noa. Malo.
Malo apito o tapani ngai whamatala koe na ke anga ho o whanonga mai I taimi koe na ho huki Tonga High School. O ku mau inga au pito mau whanonga atu, pa koe hui koe ngahi positive influence ai mātu ko hui kono tau remind atu ka te koe ki I peseti I kona ke kauai, na ke kauai he taimi ko ia o ke lava hu. Pa ko tuia uia o ku na aonga lahi a ke te koe neongo na ke pehe na kai ke lava ko regret he kai ke au ki o ke whai e school si. Ka koe konga lahi, ko tui ko konga lahi ana na kau pe influence ko ia ke taimi I ho o whanonga mai koe whanonga loa mo ngā ue mo contribution mo hafu hao ngai. Ngā ue Lelei o ke au mai ai ke au e ni ka ko whamalo atu koe ku tau ilo na ia hano tale niti tolo pulu pia na whare I sangone pia ko tui ko ki tau tolo na ia pe mai whare ke na tau kau ai. Ka tuk mua ke hoko atu he ki e whaiwhekau ki a Silvia ke ne hoko atu ke ne whakawhiloaki ka tak Silvia whakawhiloaki mai pe koe.
Malo sane, ko kuingoa ko Silvia a kau ola tongo. Ko e kuongo mātu ko e tangata eiki, ko kere a kau ola, ko e whine eiki, ko la tu I wailala monu a kau ola. Whakatou kano polu lo uape. Me I tonga tapu. Nā kuhu ki he Tonga High School I he tautahiwa o no hiwa. Pea o tau whakaosi he Tonga High School I he tahiwa fitu ono. Ko whanongo ki he lau atapani na e regret e ia ai kai ke kau he CV I he kalasi whakaosi. Ko a wia nau kau au he kalasi ono tu o lahi ka te toki lawe ki ai ana yangi. Ka koe fo I fia koe o e hange koe na e mau koe e uhila ria waa. Ai uruaki hihifo nai hu koe ke Tonga High School. Koe lau tohi pure anga koe a kano polu tal hono whokotuu. Ko au ai fuafua toko taha na e toki lava me iai he sivihu koe tahiwa ono walu. Ki he Tonga High School. Pea neongo ne osi he Tonga High School hok ta o ke te oku ko Stella. Kana e Sivia Stella ia me lau tohi pure anga a atere. Iha ate iho. Ko hie nai whaiako tangata eiki I atere. Pea au ki he tau koe na e wholau mai ai tangata eiki ki Queensilani ko e polokalama ako lolotonga ne whaiako. Mauto e foki ki mautolo e whamiri ki kanokupolu. He tahiwa ono walu. O sivihu me iai, mauaisi o to whainga maarie, whiri he mata e lau I Taha, o lava toko taha me I kanopolu, koe fuafua hu ai lau tohipure a ngā ke Tonga High School. Whare kawa hoku ta o ke te o kuia I Tonga High School. Hu atu auia o whare nua, ko hia koe lanu whokia ko wofitaha he koula. Pea, kana aku kai ke ngata pe ku kalasi ono tu o lahi, na toi hu tu o au ke Tonga High School. Ko hie na osi koe a koe tahi wa fitu ono. Pe au alu ki fisi. Pe toi kamataanga koe tahi wa walu noa. Ko toi hutu oua ke Tonga High School. Kai hu whai ako. Nā huo whai ako he whika mo e sainisi. He form 1 ke form 5. E tahi wa walu tōlu na e whai whemau he potungawe ako e tiutalahi o e taimi ko ia Tonga High School ko Lady Tuna Fiela Kepa ko e ofisa ako ma olunga he potungawe ako pea hiki ia ki ai kau whainga maari e au o reo i he tuunga i he lakanga o e tiutalahi i he tau tahiwa walu tolu ia. Pea osi e kamataanga tau tahiwa walu wha na ku whainga maari e ke toi mau a scholarship ke toi ako i New Zealand. Pa ko foi folau mai ko ia. Whai e ako, pea raki mau hoku huse pāniti, ko sione tongotongo, me ho foa, o ku te kai osi e ako ia ko ia, pea o nofo ai pe i New Zealand, o i kai to e whai hafoki ki Tonga. Ko ki mea pe taha te ulawe ki ai i he ku manatu meri e koe ki he ke Tonga High School, neongo ulahi au pito e ngahi mea, i he uraki huu, mo e toi huu tu ou atu. Ka koe mea na aku, koe manatu meri e lava pe ke toi ririu pe koe manatu tamaki. Kana e wāwā ofi ho mau taimi huu ke Tonga High School, pea mhoku tau kete, pea mhoku tunga ane e taha. Na e ako atere hoku tunga ane CCE pa toki hupe whaos ke Tonga High School. Aia ko mau ki i whaamiri, ko tau kete, ko Stella nai hu ia tahi wao no fitu. Hu atu au ke Tonga High School, he tahi wao no hiva, pea huangi hoku tonga anea etika, he tahi wa fitu noa. Pea mau, ko mea koe na e lau kia e tapani, taimi lahi taha ia e nofo koe mo e to'u a ko moe. Ko mau ki whaamiri ai e mau wheohi whakataha mo e to'u a ko, pea mau to e wheohi whakataha pe, he whoki atu koe ki api. Aia nanehanga ia o uki e ai mea koe vā ofi, o e whepoupo a ki mo e wheofani, he anga koe mau ki tutupu hake. Pea mau kau whakataha pe he mea koe mate a ki, ai mahu inga o e ako, ai mea pe a koe na e osi o mai e tangata e ki he na e whai ako. Pana e sai pe a ko ia, he whanonga hake koe he ngahi kalasi. Kai au koe ke form 1, no? CV koe ke university, CV UE, pau CV au tō. Aia koe, tau koe pau tō repeat lewa form 1, no? Ma form 1 no whakataha rewa mo tonga ane, mo etika. Koe tau koe ia, ma tā pure lahi a etika ia, pea to e taksia he ako he tau koe ia. Kai ke iloa ai kaunanga ia koe ni, koe kalasiono tu o lahi foki. Ka koe talu me he tau koe ia, mo e toe mahiki hake, a e kufo i whakaapa ma kehe aku ke hokutonga ane. Talu me aho koe ia, pau kei hoko pe ia, o au mai ki he taimin. Nā ku raki hiki mai ki meripoane ni he kamataanga i wāwhe tānima. Hiki mai ia, koe ko hau hangaton mei Tonga, koe hiki mai ia mei New Zealand. Pa koe ku ngau e o kwhai nusi i meripoane ni, koe tau eni hono fitu. E ku whai whatongia, koe whai whekau, i he siasi o kui koe Burwood Heights Uniting Church i meripoane. Ko ngata he, kai o ate whainga maari e, ki hoku o ngote hina o kutoe sane. Malo e mau whainga maari e.
Malo o pito Silvia e Talanoa, maari e ke anga o whanonga, tau whanongoa o mahuinga o pito o mo waofi, mo whanga, mo sister ka uma afoki o brother halolotong hena mo wako whakatape. Hange pe koe Talanoa ko atapani, o ku toi tokolahi ane a ki nau tolu hono o whangatehina ka uma ai to whawhine na nau kau whakataha i ako ua nau whipupo waki i e taimina nau wako ai pia mo taimina na o sia mia ko mari apito Talanoa he ko uhi ho firi ke kau ke whare ko nua. E ko uhi ko whare ia o kuange o ku ho lau o ku ofi taha ke ko ula. Ko whare ia na kau ai me o ku i kai ke wofi au ke ko ula. Ia na kau pe au mo e tautou kalasiono tuolahi o hangi kon ko lau. E ko whakakau atu ke lau koe na tapani na e tau pe nima ono noa pe ki ono nima e ne ako. Ko awina tau ai walu. Ai walu koe tau koe walu koe he Tonga High School. Pea mea no uhinga ko hui koe tau ia koe na introduce ai koe form o no pea la mai ki te nofo pe te store pe te toi siri pea togi osi mei ai ako. Ka mau inga au pita Fakalotolahi mo au sia au mai o whanonga mai mei Tonga. Osi koe ia pa ke toi foki, osi hoa koe fiesi foki ki Nusila. Ki foki ki Tonga High School o Whaiako, pa ke toi foki merewa ki Nusila, pa ko taimini o ke heni Melbourne. O ke whaifatongia koe whaifekau. Malo au pito e sirivia pa te tau toki hoko atu ka uane mo a whainga mari e koe ni, kia ema whiwhita uhi ke ne whawherua ki mai ia. Malo ema.
Malo au pito stande. Ko whawhetai lahi ke e ki e whainga mali e ko kau whakatahai pe mo e kau korismu ai ako maalunga tonga. I he manatu meli e pe mo e manatu maafana ke api ako tau o whai. Pea ko ate whaapa ki he wakakai o whanuani pea tupe mua ke whamanu atu he ngahi whatako to pēna e whai e tāne kai whai pēha ki wahe he ki i halanga whanonga na o whomai ai. Ko kuhingoa na kuhu aki ki he api ako ko e mawhiwhita. Pea nā kuhu i he tahiwa noa whomwani pea tuku ki he tahiwa noa. Koe ku tamai ko naftalai se o la a whiwhita. Ko ene hau me haano. Pea mo tataka mo tonga. Au nofo kolofo o. Pea ko e whae ko tupou moala pua whiwhita. Ko ene hau me talafo o. Pea mo nuku leka. Pea kaua peki ai mo haate iho pe moe ngahi. Oloi hahake, pea na aku tupu hake, na e keke aha ku tonga ane aku toko ua. Pea na e o hake awia i he kolo whae. Ae na o tupu hake au i he Tonga High School i talafo o. Na e whae pea mo kono ngai te hina nima ko kina tonga na o hake au. Pea ko tamai aku na Nusila he taini ko ia. Pea ko whine eiki na e ngā ua ia i koe ofisa sela whewhine i he birisone tonga he tau e tolu. Pea na ia lewa hono ki i kuata i hua tolu. Pea na e konga lahi mo ui i he high school na aku tupu hake hua tolu. Ako whiawhia au pito ke o hai. Ako ia maha pita. I te nau iro kako whiawhia he na e kaua hua tolu ia he na whetu na e la langa ke mo ui. Pea koe ku hau ke aspireli a mi. Ko e ku whau mai he tainga mani e whanama oe. Aia koe ko whakamata maki i he pake ANZ. Na aku huki ai he uawhe. Pea koe taue ni e ua ko whanonga ia ni taue ua he ki ngā ue ko e ni. Pea hanga ki ngā ue ko e ni o mai au ki neri kua neni. ai koe takai hono wae araka ki mua me whaniri i he taue wha, ma whoki ki Tonga, pia koe mau toe whainga koe ke hoko ato e ako whanau, na anau loto pena tau ke whok mai ki mei poani. Ai ana mau o mai ki heni i he wāwhi tāwhi. Koe kumi e whainga maali e ako, e te hepe ki he whainga maali e Taha. Pea o kei whakaamata maki ai i he ngawe angai mei poani. Pea ako wai e whainga maali e koe ke o pahe atu ai. Koe ku manatu meli e koe ki he ngako. O kua manatu pe ki he fo'i taimi koe sirihu. Maha koe taimi mahu i ngā taha pe ia kia au ai kua ngoi koe ai brand koe ai api ako ki he taimi koe. Ai na u tupakau ia i tawa fo'o kana se mau pe whae ke o hao ki he api ako no alofa. GPS anu alofa, ko hike lahi a ngaha whainga maari e ke o hu ki Tonga High. Ai nai o mai pe au ia ki nuk alofa ko whatau mua pe ke hu ki Tonga High. Ne ke o atamai nei ka nai whinga. Koe nei osi e i piko toa o mau api hono whinga i ke hu ke o haa ki nuk alofa ka lama hu wai ki Tonga High. Ke mau inga ko Tonga High. Pea, ke tainga na mau na huai ko ki Tonga High. Fia lahi mo on. Na ke kia hataha ea mau family. Ko mau ki immediate family na hu ki ai. Ko whae aku na e ako sa mele. Pea ko tamai aku na e ako ia ni atele. Pea hona. Ana kai prima ai api ako ke hea na e ka wai. Ai ako no whahu, ko ku lawa ko huki Tonga High. O ku mānawa Lelei e whanuri, mālo ko lawa ai whenga i he Tonga High. Pa i he taim tatau pe, o te ongo i pe ai hangeha te whia ka mo te mahawhana pe kita he tau he lau, hango e lau ka atapani he 1%, he less than 1% o huke api ako. Pea, pa koe fwoi lau maale na hua ki ai. Koe tāpu aki mo on. Ko ke mantu i pe ako manak meri e ko mau rakalasi. Ko mau kalasi, ko mau wharako ko mistress lesson. Ko pena mau hua koe ki he api ako na e ko manatu na toko ua balu e mau kalasi. Pea koe toko ua taha ia i he toko ua balu ko. Ai ko tau pe he ko pe se te fitu ni ma kalasi. Koe nau first language and nau to rene ke ko Tonga. They were like English speakers. E ai koe ngahi matu a pālangi. Pea kai ke ngā kai. Koe whanau Tonga pe ia kakai mo ai Tonga he taim koe ana e lawa i o ako e mau whanau i muli pea. Pena nau o mai ki mulimi he ngai uhinga whakaskola sipi o ako e nau whanau hen. Ai ka nau whoke ana tole ki Tonga, ne ki ke nau, ne ka pike nau lea whakatonga nau. Ai a kapau te whanau, te mahalo pe e ino pe e tapani na i ka wai toke tā whanonga wa inga mangisi. E koe, me te pike lea whatonga i ngai o au kene osi. Ia Jolene a kolo tau taki ko Juliet Panuve ko manato ati ka Tolini Tonga. Ia si ata tāwite, ata whina tāwite. Koe mau kalasi ia. Pana nau hauna ko me side school na keke nau ia. Tonga. Ai ka whi toko ua taha ia. Ia peke nau lea whakatonga. Pako e toenga koe toko fitu. Na e hua den he GPS a. Ka na anau ma lohi pe nau tolu ia i he nau own right. Ka koe taha ai, ka pauko manatu ki ai. na hu mai nei pavelu a toketa Catherine Latu teki na le mau ia havelu. Pea hu atu nei GPS a fasi a lolo hea lirika fusmalo hina ni ma ia a fasi. Pea toko ni male na hu atu nei GPS a lofa. Aia na kawai Helen Beteri o ngaloa. Koia na proxima sese to mau tau. Pea kawai mo Gloria Poleo. Gloria Gutenberg Poleo. Ayo kusi o he parliament he ahoni he pea lolo pea kau ke ai pea mo society welu o kawa ke ai mo au pea kau ke ai pea mo mafle o sia masi pea koe fotunga mau kalasi ayo koe foi pese te whinima ke nau lea whakatonga pea koe pese leva koe wanima na toe na malohi abu be na le whakapapala or it didn't matter whether na whaiako I whakatonga pe whapala na take a disadvantage ai nau tō. Tako no o la goe ni anai hopo, ko no hanga fo I whika go ia o hiki I mau ki kalasi, o na me nei hange te ha tatak whakapapala. Ko kumana tō. Ko no struggle. I struggled a lot. And I began to lava area I competitiveness going in there. But go na lewa na fae ko no ave holo au po ako he ngai wapia ko to pe ha. Aya na fae po ako mo nga olive ko wiai ko ako ata kun silipa ko wiai middle school atala fo o ko iai. La mea mali la Taha ko ia ko no fenga in go ke have fighting chance ke lava o stay abreast ko go kala ko fenga anyway ko Talanoa fia ki ai ke mau rakikala si because I go to ku na lunga go na fusi ke go mau ki kala si ko mela na hoko na henia na fai fe au hi na ke mau sai he spoti ko Juliet Panu ve na sai spoti ko Lelei na fa fo ofa pito mata to ngai na sai ko to pe fe au hi ki no kia da ko tan ko o fai ko mau kalasi ka pai to fa ma mau si fai ke to noa ko uluaki ko wahiba ko hoko ko wabal ko lima te bahana tolu wabalu ia o pero oso vaya vai wa kalasi na ka o tuna to he wani ma te wahi amna mene foto no te he ma kalasi pa ko time ko o kutu fa mai sivi pa te swat le ba o ku pe ta te rea te tota o ma wa te wa le ya o fana ke fai ako ke to Fakalotolahi e le pepa fa tonu I whakawhikiki ke toi o ani wahani hawhi maka. Ke inga tuia, whaipe koia, lava. O whaipe tangi tō tahe, ko hane na hiki ai e whai hawhi maka ko pea alu le vai o whakatonu ne te pā. Pana mau kamata pe he nau ki kalasi o moulu taha ki whai ako. Ke taimi na maua a form whiri ke toi whai moulu, ia ko kamata pe hange pe ki ilai, ki kiu pe ia ke o ke whai ako. Koyo ke whakatonu tonu. Pea me kamata pe me lausi. Ai si o ki he tataki mai gone te ani gone. Tu upe a te te limbo umaloa. Kononga ki mu a whakatonu tonu ni te pa. Mui ata inga. Pea gone tu upuga inga. Me osko toa te kalasi he o ki mua. O whakatonu tonu pe ka o lewa ke matu at mahino hai kai ke toi laka Pero tano na fana mo meli ki ai you know you sustain this pressure for that o kaka toi ono high school. But then you know ma va he ai ko me Tonga High o ha ko me ako ko ko to me Tonga High e mo me ti koe. Ai mahu inga koe oe whakawhiki a fo I mai o mapaka. Ko hu mai koe ki tu apa o alo mao ngā oe. Ko mea ko wako me ai. Te o ngā oe pea o pa ulia. O he poka ko whenga I penia ki sai ange ki ngā oe. He aha koe ki pua. Ko whenga I penia ki fo I hawhi mata. Ko unganga koe ana I hau I Tonga High. Ko whawhi tai ke e ki. I he te taka ofi pe he kakai poto. He kalasi. Ia ni hanga I Fakalotolahi I kita te tau e matua. O e wheinga ke te toi slai ang. O whawhiki ki I hawhi mata. E mao e hafo I ngā. Patau te taha pe whuki he halanga whanonga. Pako hao kono ngā ue he ni. It's a competitive environment. They'll go find, that when go whenga. Go whenga e go half mark. Go whakeheke before get to the best from the next before half mark. Pako ilo e go ni hao ki he whanua go Australia. So competitive. The half mark matters. It's getting to a client half a day early. It's taking the extra care. Get the pakahoko hakatomia. There's ngahi u attributes for ya. Ogo whamalo ia na elalanga ni Tonga High. Moiki kalasi wana mautupakia. Bako panatu melia ki ai. No for built to see a big in Maltalasi. I mean, that when they were, that when they don't know me. I'm about 75% of Maltalasi here. Oku now ngā kotoa e mūri he ngahi ngā oku offer that. Ma olunga pito go about the whakatā Jolene Akolo ngā oe U ena ko nolohea fusmalohi IFC ko toke tā inga manisi ko SPC toke tā amalanga whalekau o ku ADB Paka ke lau ke ngai u hala na whanonga ai o son-in-law kono tapani tala ke sau koka. Pakalele pea no kau Taha Tonga pangone no to peta ati sau ke change in a career to have how ati sau run his own consultancy. Pako muy e awia ngahi ulava bea no kala. Fia noa te awia ma whana he te tangata tako te mausi ila vai o mao mo ui pa mau ki whāmi mau ki whāna I he taimi I ngai tau. Pako whaambeke o ngā tai pako whamaloa pito whāne whainamari aloha.
Maloa pito e mai Talanoa Mari e ko ia. Ko tuk whatoanga I hake koe tau peno koe ni koe kau speakers koe toko ua me lausi I. Ma koe toko ua me hake. Ko ia e koe u ki mua pa tau toi hoko atu ki ngahi Talanoa koe ni ko moutuku mai ku whamawhana o pito Talanoa e ma ke whotunga ho kalasi. Pea moe whenga malohi o whine eiki ke support koe I he ako. Neongo koe lau tohisi I kana ane whi mao ke hu ki ako maalunga o Tonga. Ai au ke au sia ngahi tuunga maalunga. Pea moe ngahi lava mea o au koe ni ko uhi koe ngahi whelaulau. Koe ngahi whelaulau kai ke toi loi. Pea ko tui o tatau. Pea moe moku tolo ko I heni I he Talanoa koe ni. Kau tukua ngai mua heni ki a Marisela ke ne whawheloa ki mai ia. Malongo Marisela.
Hello.
Malo sane. I am going to stick to English just because I don't think my formal Tongan is all that good. So sorry to the Tongan listeners, but I just want to introduce myself. I am Malesela Kakala. When I was in Tonga High, now married. My surname is Jones. I am the daughter of RoadToFaaimata Kakala and Tawake Kakala, both from Lapaha. My year of entry into Tonga High School, I started in Tonga Side School in grade 5. And so I was part of the group that went into Form 1 and Form 2 in Tonga Side School, and then went into Tonga High for Form 3. So I'm officially part of the class of 95, but I only entered in 97. So I entered Tonga High School in 1997 into Form 3, and I finished up from there Form 6 in 2000. The sports house that I was part of was Sangone, so like the money, go the Blues. I think when I was also in Tonga High, Sangone was never that good. I think Gubba was always the winning house when I was there. To briefly mention some of the highlights for me when I was in high school, most people would know me as being the Ducks of the year that I finished, year 2000. I was also deputy head prefect for the girls and part of the quiz team in Form 6. Long story, I got demoted as a prefect and kicked off the quiz team. Happy to come back around to that story later in the discussion. And the first year that I came to Melbourne, my family actually lived in Melbourne for about 4 years when my dad was here in the early 90s, late 80s to early 90s. My dad came to Australia to study engineering at university. So I started my primary school years here in Australia, and then we went back when my dad had to go back for work. Hence why I was part of what Emma mentioned, the kids who kind of grew up speaking English at home. So I had a really tough time when we moved back to Tonga because we moved from Melbourne to Lapaha, and suddenly I was thrown into a school where, yeah, we spoke. So my parents wanted us to go to Tonga Side School. I had no idea what was going on. I just did the exam and got in. But we lived in Lapaha, so there was just this disconnect with having lived over here, not knowing how to speak Tongan. I could understand it. I wasn't fluent at all. I couldn't speak it. So I think we lived in Lapaha for about 4 years before my family moved to Fussy. And so all up, we were in Tonga for about 9 years, and that's where I finished the rest of primary school in Tonga Side School and then went into Tonga High. But yeah, we finally moved back again. That was always the plan for my parents, to bring us back to Australia for further education. So I'm the oldest of 6 kids. When I finished Tonga High in 2000 and then finished up Form 7 in Tonga as well, I think at the time it was National Tonga High School Form 7. I did Form 7 in Tonga High, and then we moved to Melbourne at the beginning of 2002 so that I could go to uni. And at the time, I think my parents were trying to figure out whether they would send me on my own or move the whole family. And in the end, I think Dad's work just kind of tied up, and he took a redundancy package from the TPB at the time. And so we left and we moved to Melbourne at the beginning of 2002, and I started uni that year on a scholarship from Tonga as well. doing accounting at Monash Uni. And we've been here ever since. So I eventually finished uni. That's also a long story of much failure along the way. And I eventually finished uni and went into auditing. So I currently I've been working in audit since I graduated from uni. And I currently work for a chartered accounting company called Low Lipman. I'm there part-time as an auditor. So that's a bit about me.
Oh.
Thank you, Maricela, for the story. Whawhiwhia pita tau whanongo miha taha kau ātita, upcoming auditors, o kune ngāu e tōtō iwi, iene kau taha koe mi o kuhe kau taha o kau ki ai. And not only that, but mentioning the sacrifices that the parents had to take, ia taimi anau hiki mai ai ki Melbourne ko hipe koe whenga ke ka hao e ako. And I think Emma did mention that too. In their case, they had to come back ko hipe koe sia loa ke ka hao e whanau. Ko ia ka neongo ia ko whamaloa tau pito ke te mūtolo he ngahi introduction ko ia mo ngahi Talanoa. Ka kutuku ata atu peeni ke hui ke mūtoe Talanoa mai pe ke mūtoe manatu merie ka umao koe haho mo wongoi ke ngahi. Ko hiko tau lahe te mūtolo ko mo usi mention ai ko mo usi lave ki ai ki he tuunga mo iai he taimini pia mo e tuunga na e hanga e he Tonga High School o mold ki mūtolo ke ngahi. Ngā ue ko ia pia mo e ngahi ngā Lelei mo ngahi contribution o mo whai e ngahi e ria keke. Ame ko Silvia ko neongo ko e na kamata ko whai ako, end up ko whai whikau. Pehe kia tapani, ia e ngahi ngā ue lahi au pito mo ngai whanua lahi na ngā ue ai, pia ku hange kia Emma. She stuck it out for more than 20 years with the bank, ANZ Bank. Pia mo ne lau ke ne whiohi, pia mo e kakai Lelei, pia mo e kalasi Lelei. And I'm sure those positive influences rubbed off. O kau Lelei here, and even though oku hange, oku kepehe, oku very competitive, kaike toi loi, ko hiko environment o tau iai, e whanua koe no tau iai, it's very competitive au pito. Ka oku competitive in a sense, oku positive au pito outcome, ngahi outcome ko ia, pia ta tau peke lau koe na Maricela. Ka kou toi tuku atu, ka pau ukto ia ha mea, o mo toi fia tāna ki atu ki ai, pia kata au pito peke mo toi tāna ki mai. He kai ke uhanga toi whakahoko atu ko hai pia ne ngoi, o ki ai ha mea ko aonga ke ne hanga tāna ki mai, please feel free to do that. I o tapani, o ko atu koe.
Malo au pito. Malo e ngai Talanoa maari e koni ko whanongo ki ai ko mea whakawhiawhia mo whakamahawhana. Pea teu whalahi atu pē ki he taupo Talanoa. E koe hui, o tau hoko meheni ko e kau tangata aiki me kau whine eiki. Pea kātaki pē kau whine mui. Ai se fine mui o kau e whakmo e ma pia me ko matou beru I matou tuange pe mo kwata ki pe ko e kumo ia o koe ke pe se tolu o volume e tolu fai haki ki o lunga pia ko me u ia ko na pia to ko ki a o ma tau ho a tolu pia mahalo e ke to la hipe te feo mo pia ia mo ia pa to ki ho kwata pong Kai ka tau whego pe ke whakano no e ko tau taimi. E ko whanau atu ki o lau sela, toki hao ki te au a ho tangata ki a tawake. He nai kai ke, na maheni mo me leri a pita hoi kumari hono tō whewhine mo cousin Johansson. Pea kai ke he kokonga ke he ia, Patako na ko Emma ko ke lau ko ngā hāno ta tau pe moa ko ha pe me maka ko where unga ta tau pe moe tau kompe he fia feeling sane pea tu ke he foki e ho iki me he mui whanua tau pe ko hakanga lotu I kana polu e va pe kana polu mo hatafu te au ko me mai no pe ko ko Talanoa ka ta valuano te laktato me ko ni ngalo sela ko ngawo fai tai mi I'm an author turn myself into an author and I write books in deal languages for people like you so you can Google me up Shantapan Mangis and you get all the details but
I have your ebook.
Hey?
I have your ebook.
Okay, there's another one coming hopefully this month. Again, I feel kind of awkward in telling you if we I encourage you. Well, I want to know about you. Everything about what you know, I want to know. I want to share it. You know, not for any reason of just proud. And I think that this, you know, our contribution will be diminished if we don't tell what's inside you. Okay, ko me tonga he tahiwa he scholarship e puranga ko e osia ai tahiwa no lima tahiwa no ka matanga tahiwa no ono no mau mai ai pa te talata fe me ko ni he ko tu ki a servia ka masane pe mo pe ema pe mo sela na ku ma scholarship a ku ia he form 4 of ka ta ma scholarship form 4 ka ko ifa ko foi fanga mari e pena hoko he tai ko ia o ko scholarship o tau feturi he civic news la ai ko school setia pe o ko fanga ko tai ko ia na ko na ui pe ko civic news la ko te lava pe ko school si albinus he tai ni a ko uhila mo langi ria va me ma tolo to ka ngai advantage ko and it was good, but also not so good in a sense. He was not only the Dutch of his year, but he was also the first one from the whole of Hivo who come to Tonga High School. And that's a big thing in those days. Hako mai ko ki au time ko na ua to au ki ai. O si ai me to hongo fulu ke hea me hava tolo. Would you believe? Me o kuna he Tonga High School. No village like that in Tonga. Eh? Pahua tau e ke o si ai uhila tua lau to ua. Matu mo siosi. Sion lia va. Kuri hu fanga. Pea mo au, pea mo Josh. Tion lia va. But also, nothing for me to celebrate. So I was quite happy to Lelei Taha fue mama ali pega tu pega tama ko na wi vilahe ata mai Lelei. Kaya compare con all of a sudden talking about these things, it dawned on me. Na ya taha na scholarship me ya no form 4. I don't think so. I'd be one of a few, if not the only one ever, to have scored a scholarship going to do an apprenticeship in refrigeration and air conditioning in New Zealand. Pea na hoko pefo I whanga maari e ko ia, ko hui ko whakahawa ko ni ko e pureanga ke tau hu o ai Tonga High School o kauhe e Tonga higher living. That's the only reason. Pea ko hui ko tau silapa whanga tau, tai maalunga pe, there's a given me u korisi he. Na e toko taha me Tonga High School na mawai whakataha he tau ko ia, ko kanangata hausia. Kana class maalunga hake ia. He was 1 year ahead, so I don't think anybody had a scholarship. Pe mo no fok mo tolu a sane pe mo sirivia mo me he taimi ko ya. Ta tau ko mo tame ko no foko yo matau. O to no fok ki he. You got to remember, I was in Form 4, the end of Form 4, and then ma ko living up o alwa. Ka kutoe for me to get a scholarship, kamata fogeni ke very, very competitive aupito. Ku alaka uiai ai lau a fifth, ke wal uiai. Apa fifth, mahalo ka apa fifth na tu kamata school certificate. Apa fifth, skepa te homan form 6, pogyan form 7. All of those were done in New Zealand before, I see. Kono hinga na ue pego ko e siliki nusila, you do school C, you go. E time yako la tu po la tu tapueluelu aneti mo klasiko ya kawai mo matu mo me sonia va. Kama o fang mari o pa okay bye bye guys alwa. Pana o mai na foi me Taha. The night them me a trade ke ko kona Taha si na hawi pe hawi no foi o kalani o ai ne plumbing. Ka mai mo tama ko ila tapueluelu me atereia mo tama Taha te vita tupo o pila tupo o toko wa bembe masilamea kana mai na me atere mo tamo mo ngane si vai puna me fetu pahu kana fetu ngere ia I fetu fasi as you know kai ke ko mau ko o mai ia ka ko o tan ko ia ko ta no ia lere ta fitu te ke ta fitu ta mai I New Zealand pau Osco mau o mai ko scholarship ta ni pa ne o fanga mari e tan ko ia nga o bek ta mai farmaki ngu e time ko mata not the radio paper lang e time tamata me e time na mata no I thought anyway let's turn out mark fanga mari so I off New Zealand he ko sia ta ko ta no fo fa fiki mo ka poto ko mo ka lasi e te ke futo mu e kulere ha te we go pia o ma e school certificate but what the heck also school certificate pia to alu UE, that's 2 years down the track. But so, all by luck, and my mind started to open up into other things. I should take this and nick off before somebody else grabs the opportunity. I got Palama, refrigeration engineers, my trade. And I for scholarship Taha ki ko lab technician ki PNG. And I'm thinking to myself, matano mo mangsi tamai na dai ki mahalo. I think he had a leaning towards the health industry, you know, and ki walo a laboratory technician course. But kaki fi ala ki Papua New Guinea. Ko aku ye ko I'm a Tonga High School fellow. Femau ko algi palang yo ako ai algi New Guinea ako ha alo ako puhi ko kai mo I come out with a BA of Fanangahau it's not counted fe algi palang o nga we o ako ai for me you know that's my prejudice you know nothing wrong with PNG or anything like that it was just my own thoughts so you know why I didn't want to take that up despite the fact that my dad was kind of leaning towards that area but sorry Dad we have to you know, have agreed to disagree here. I don't want to go to PNG, thanks, you know. And kaike kako fanga mari go ya. Ha le va New Zealand he no o to tawanima. Oski fitu Taha. Ono Taha no one to no fa no nima. Sorry. Fitu Taha. Os tau nimpa tai fitu Taha os pavogito. Tawe ono for me actually. Osi I tau ni mai pe talamai kapau graduated with a trade certification. That's what the contract was about. So before kireva katama ko maganes vai puna ila te peluelu pila tupo mo no toi katama ko no mau mai. No fofoka ta ai e o kalani kana ta hausia. Na foki na toki tonka to Korea we give no for I advanced trade certificate in New Zealand. But ta ke hei. Ko ngena to ia ko for ta 1971 but to foki tonka end of 71. O fe lo ke ai mo ki fe fine nai ki whakamaniwhi mai ki au, ka pau nai sinaki ai peha muha ki whiwhine tonga pe maukalasi ki pehe mai ki mua, mahalo nai my life would have taken a different course. But anyway, una whakata, every time ko New Zealand hei hau ki ai, o se whai tā ua, o koe ka tama koe now I left behind, now kei nofo ko he kalasi, maukalasi, o whai, you know, o se o whai tau e ua pe tolu, unau toki mau e nau scholarship. O sia e nau school certificate, nau UE, pe monda aimo nau bursary, form 7. Ko o se o whai tau e tolu a wia i tonga. I'm already three years into my apprenticeship. I've got 2 years to go and finish. I finished that. O kuki mari loto pe, nang song. Ko tau tu ngai, o tau whatever, don't give up yet because you're not done yet. You know, we're only just beginning. You know, the race is not finished yet. So, now, ko whanau atu koe o kia tamatahang. Oku alu ki hopo ate mo ngangong, tau pehe, because se meso au, but 1 or 2 years after, out of Papua New Guinea, I had a surveying course over there, Sani would know. Ko also tau ko alere ko ni my second year or third year, I'm right in front of the pack, if not leading all the people that was over there. Like I said, I got my scholarship at Form 4, you know. I also yeah. But I never eku advanced trade certificate. But my certificate, if you want to prove this and ring up the board certification board for my certificate, you won't find it there because it's actually spelled differently. Ko time to gana spell pe ia nga ko g atatape aya ko ma nga MAGISI. So if you look for me in MANGISI, you won't find it in those times. Only with the G. But anyway, so I got the advanced trade certificate in 1971, and lo and behold, I look at the certificate, and there is a number, as you all know, with this, and it's number 39. And I rang him up and say, hey, what is the meaning of this number? He said, oh, you are the number 59th or 39th that have received this certificate. You know, for me, my goodness, you know, New Zealand has got at the time probably 3 million people. You know, the little fellow from Tonga High School has got a certificate saying that he was the number 39th that ever hold this in his hand. Something that I thought it was pretty cool. Again, in 1985, I never gave up. I wanted to be one of the people who graduate from a university in my class, 32 or so of us. And I was always in the bottom 50%. Not because I wasn't able to do it. I just didn't care at the time, you know, but I made it through and got my scholarship, So I went back to Tonga with my advanced school certificate, by the way, the only one who have got that. And I went to work for my employer, Tonga Copper Board. Risate Akolo, Jolene's father, he was the accountant over there. They were some years below me, 1 or 2 years, and I set them up and all of those. And I knew them obviously from Tonga High School, but in New Zealand as well. They came some years after, 2 or 3 years after I was there. And I lasted 2 weeks. I went over, I take front of work and say, okay, I'm Chandaban Bangishi, blah, blah, blah. They didn't expect me to, okay, I'm, you know, told them the story and said, oh yeah, you start, you know, so I started. You know, we did for the 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, we just played draft, you know, or the guys, about 10 or 15 of them, just played draft. You know, you big hip array, whoever had a few good moves, nothing to do, you know. So I thought, Tapan, are you going to last the rest of your life doing this? I said, no. So the GM at the time there, a guy called Masiva Offa, So after 2 weeks of playing draft, of watching playing draft, and on occasion somebody would come, oh, there's a job here. And the foreman would be, oh yeah, can Tawake go and do this, please? Okay, and we continue with the draft. See? 2 weeks, I went over and the office and I said, can I have an appointment to see the GM? Oh yeah, Masiva offer. Good. So next day I spoke to him and I said, Masiva, I want to resign. He said, well, what's happening? So I explained the story that I just mentioned. And he said to me, Tapan, kapau ko foha ko. Ko fo I whare I koe te whakatu ka te koe ni au ke hau moi. Pea sai, ka taki, pa kia hanga aue ia he. Ka koe beko tau contract. As you all know, we require 3-year bond to go and work in Tonga for whoever sponsored you. Patang, also going for Badage, how going to whare I. Okay, we'll take it from what do I do? I'll find my house, tohi. For Batala Mai, you can resign. Okay, so I did. The Atugay to my Giheni Peko to Cambodia, recommend, and I'll take it to the board. And I guarantee you that they always take my advice anyway. And that's why you might wonder why I, after being sponsored to go out and study for 6 years and come back and only lasted 2 weeks. This is why. And then, I'll get up or Kamata, I'll be out of him who make if I'm away, if I talk Umala, Tomanio. Also, bad we go back, Wang, a Sona Kaula, Senator Sona Kaolo, Kasia Kaolo, Shasha Kaolo, and Minister Police Glasgow, not to oversee. My family been may vow, family fire. Well, Fanongo, I don't know, come Europe with the Ko Tango, I look at Bataga, was Tango's no for. Pia Wangi for that, but how heck have a Tauloto? Sione quanto che ha scelto, Panetala mai, come Vakago, at the letter Pegogin o ia Vahapa, Mate I see, we look at COVID, me a Kai and we have who, Maukai Kapai. Okay, Sione. Quite a few hours, who say, I need to fire woe and Mugumbe, Palani, Kapai Lava, Becky, Walgin Silpa, New Zealand. Kakamel Gehalama, how getting fine Anga Fatonga before, Koke how, call him there, the second town. Paolo Heka have Vaka have Cataloto, but Tanga Penny Togoni, Totongi, to my God Totongi, but I'm how bonus, 1 week how bonus, take about, say 1% for argument's sake. O koloa ka toa pete o whakatu utamaki tongani he waka, okay, tika vai, haven't defrosted. Okay, how heck? Paolo heka, fui tau ia taha kai, kono heka no whakoi tonga heka he tau roto, os whetata, o whakupea. Kana before I whakoi New Zealand, ki tonga, now, the immigration department with a form. I could sense Hekaki Hangawi Yawit, Marquidong. But fortunately, if I go to Donga, I also resign. Tohi may go telephone may get Tamagon wife for our shy. Kaltaho, fish and pike, you all know fish and pike. Can I go when I know Kaltahalanga, mechanical services. Not going on our way, Nagaki Ngawe, poor ice. John, go to Panbangis. Oh, yeah, of course. You fit with the town on the town of Football, but it wasn't what I mean. He hung out. Oh, when do you want to come? Immediately. Okay. If you have Mahaki Panga, Tonga, Binimangao, kill to Tonga. I can't get in there. You got to Tonga. I go now where I'm going to my now. So I must have done something correct that they want to take me on again, So they advanced me this money. I find myself in New Zealand, back in New Zealand. My wife to be was back there. She had a year in Fiji. and we were both back in New Zealand, and then life, went on from there. Pe Australia, pe Māori, o se paungau e kau Taha, Māori he fitu ono, pe koe aini tokua ke māwhai mo ki round the world trip, as young people might want to aspire to, backpacking and whatnot. Ka koe whaurogi, patanga rewa ke kau Taha na ngā i kehe time koe, kau Taha lama, kau Taha ko Challenge Cooperation pe koe Lelei, inosila, I Wellington. Gaya o se tolu pa mo pe Māori mo arin he fitpono, so I have a world trip, last hooray before we settle down and see what comes our way. So we left there, we got married in late, November 76, went to Tonga for 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, then end up here in Melbourne, where I am right now, in early 77. But now I don't make transfer down. Young away Australia, we no headquarter make it send it. Very good. I have how pimping our go, yeah. How can our go, No problems. So, and we came here, everything was okay, but how more read about the scholarship in Melbourne Uni, the Turkey, our lecturer, junior lecturer. So it was good, sweet, and so we thought, oh yeah. And then of course Lasada came along, my daughter, and then things got went a different direction. So that was 1977. I came here, to set foot here in Melbourne. Ka ko ke ongo ibe a e ku e mau whakawawha ko mo ka ngā ko. Papa ko e ainia ko I always wanted to prove to them that I can do it. I can get a university degree, but I'll go one better. However, and I was coming to Wellington, I go diploma in business management. I have a Taha, also for Taha, about certificate in supervision, for Taha, about the Lavai, my administration certificate, without all, but about the diploma. Kakolotonga poko vau ko for ospe for like time in my world trip from Bombay in Melbourne, and we sort of stuck here for a little bit. But about now we're going to somebody mentioned here Deakin University, and Toki Kamata for a Golden Institute of Advanced Education. That's the time when all the advanced education, all became universities. And they were looking for mature age students. Put my hand up, see. Irene actually pointed out to me, hey, they're looking for students, but I was actually looking for another institution here so I can finish my diploma. But no, they put this up, and lo and behold, that's another opportunity in my way. Things just sort of there, and I applied and got in, lo and behold, to do my bachelor's degree here at Deakin University offline, because online, not on campus. I was doing it long distance, and the company Lelei was paying for all of this. So, I can't be, that's just a blessing for me. I can't begin to count my blessings. So I then finished so I started about 1890. It took me 6 years part-time, and I did that. And luckily I managed to do it in the 6 years. This is equivalent of the 3-year full-time at Deakin, long distance, and got my BA. I put in the economic part of it just for fun, just to, and then that happened, and I graduated in 1985. Okay, so I've been studying since 1960 at school, from all of that. Without any breaks, right up to 1985. And I thought, I've ticked the last box, and that's to graduate from the university. And lo and behold, you might not believe this, but I can say that I would be one of the few that have got a degree from a university and also an advanced trade certificate. Most people that when they go to university, they wouldn't have done a trade. Most people who go to trade, they don't go to universities. So, and I thought, that's why I was saying before, I'll do one better. I'll have a trade and I'll have a degree. There we go. so that was that. And now I'm not doing, and I work in the building industries, and where I work for the builder, the main contractor, and the main contractor, the client will give us these are $1 billion jobs. The last one that I did cost nearly $2 billion. The Gold Coast Hospital in Southport, and but back to after the 1980s to 90s. And thereon from there, one would sit down to give you some idea. The Federation Square over here in Melbourne, and the Melbourne Central, I was the building manager or assistant building manager in those buildings. Big developments. I wasn't working in the house building or anything like that. Federation Square, and then my job took me to Vietnam and on a job there. So, to give you some idea of the environment I work in, I would, being the building services manager, all the building services will be answerable to me. They're project managers. That is the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, the communications, anything that's not concrete or timber or, they all answerable to me. And not that I am fluent in all of those services. My job is to manage them. I only have to know a little bit to know their baselines, to know what, so they don't pull the wool over your eyes. And when we will sit down in the meetings, this is my Tonga High School, my Tongan Tonganness. I want to, I'm not a pick and shovel fellow. I go there as a project manager. We sit down in our meetings, and I'm the chairman. I run the meetings. And there are architects from the architect, the structural engineers from, there are building services engineers, there's members of all the project managers from all the different services. And here I am, the Tongan fellow from Tonga High School is running the show. And I think that's, to me, that's pretty cool. I just want you to know, my fellow Tonga High School guys are coming up. We have advice. Just do it. If you think you can do it, go for it. E loi pek da tolu I he lotu mo tō talo. Lotu pe mo tō talo. To me, penhanga e ko Talanoa I halu mo luma, pe ko luma, me ko whakaori peka, but they may say, say to me in the village, oh, the pan lotu pe mo tō talo, ko hi kono whakaangi o au ki ai. Ka kono hinga, o wikai ko lotu pe mo say a prayer, mo te alo toha te mo. It's much, much deeper than that. You commit, you of the fact of siate for lau, of the lau hat, hako hat, you make a commitment, and then you work for it, Lotu poitotalo. Quite you say grace and then poke algiuta. Oh, it's much, much deeper than that. It's a commitment, ko tukupa, ko whakapapau, ko fuakawa, ko palomes. And that's what guide my the chart of my life in my Wa mani ki taimini ka tahe wa tatol ko tauno ni mai. I've done 47 years in the workforce. I need to retire, do something else. You work for another something, you know, another lifetime, and you have a house and a car. So what is life about? So I write books for the likes of Sela, you know, and if you read my book, Sela, I'm not an academic. I'm not a linguist. I'm just another guy, as you have heard me say. But I'm committed to read. See, the academics, you know, they research things and they go around all these universities and do their research and fantastic, terrific amount of energy but it's a different level of thing to do. That's why I'm saying I'm not an academic, I'm not a linguist, but the Tongan language will not be saved by them. It will be saved by people who write it like me. Tell me how many books that are written in Tongan. Most of them are written in English by English people, English-speaking people. For me, I don't dig that. They come and write my story? No. And a lot of the time, they have it wrong. I tell you why it's wrong. There is in the posters, the book I'm writing at the moment is called MM3, you know, Manatbari 3. And it's called Tauanga Peka o Hala Pourivati. And I will let you know about that, Sylvia, and you'll know ko Hala Pourivati, ko Halaya ko me, tangata ki Osakolomai. But if I don't have ko ulutoa kato o me to peta fakiriku. Ko to fatonga ipe fe me tal o tu boge me go ilo me ko. Which you always be ha. Anyway, so I want ko utohi ko to o kuho wapini. Mape ko to Taha more or less. They grow up and we don't have any room, so we take it to the library. Ko tohi pe e tolu o tohi whakatonga. Tau pepe ko tohi pe e ua. Ko himi mo tohi tapu. Ko ke hato tohi ke heia e tohi whakatonga. But talamai he tō taha o kia e nau tohi o tohi deal language. Pau tohi atika o tau tohi. Pea mai ko tohi minusila, ko tohi pe taha. Ko tohi whapalangi pe. See, they already made an assumption ko whi mau pe tohi whapalangi, you know? But it's advertised as deal language. Pea mai ko tohi e ko patu ko where whakatonga. Oh, ko tohi ke heia. Oh, okay. Pea ngata ai. Ko mahalo pea wea. I want to put an end to that with a little bit of energy. Although I'm on home straight, the tank is still not quite empty yet. So what I want to do with a little bit of energy from the ex-Tonga High School fellow is to write.
Malo tapani kataki pe mau Talanoa. But I'm conscious of the time also pamuha toi whainga mari ke si kau whiwhine o toi. Mahino pe pia whamalo atu ko hia ko you're telling your story. Koe futau pone whawhitu o ngā ngoe. Koe futau loloa ia pia ku pau peke loloa pia muho experience pia muho ngahi. Ia ko ka ku mau ina o pito mo Fakalotolahi. Ko tui o Fakalotolahi ke kau whanongo. Pia mo e tamaiki ako ke ako he taimini. You never give up.
Never give up.
Ta ko hange ko Talanoa ko advanced trade certificate ka ko degree at a later stage. Na kai ke fie mari e pe ki o no fo pe ke mau pe a trades kana ke to fei na ki to me auto malunga nge pa mau inga ya ka tu kana mo whainga mari e ko ni e pane ko sio te whai kau o ku tokanga mai ke ai ha ane Talanoa ana o ku to me rie kau ki hifu ko mo ngai me a ko ya te pe kia e ma ka mo Maricela ka ko ilo ko Maricela tene lau ka toa ya pe ma tolo ku ya pe tatau o ula to hi te kai ke mau to yo no wa ya no fo ke to yo no tolu ma no pito whaifika
Malo sane ko popo atu ke mo lau e tohi ai manatu meri e uraki mo e ua ko hi he ko fola pe kita he kata me he kamata ki he osi ko hi ko e te whanongo tonu ko e he ngahi me ana e hoko. Malo tawhani. Koe ki mea pe taha te utana ke atu, o kou fie tāna ke atu e au ia sāne ke pō talanoa o e whiawhini. Koe toko lahi au pito o e kau lava mea. Me he apiako, me he whānau tama ai apiako Tonga High School. Pea o ku mon pe lau ko atapani, o koe koha mea, it's not a show and tell. Ka oku tau toki sio, tau tu tau tolu me he taimini, o sio ki mui, mo whakalau ai lava mea kua whai e he kauako o e Tonga High School. Ka koe mea koe lava mea, success is never taught. O koe koha mea ia o kuako i ke te hu ke apiako pa te pehe, koe tau mua ku hu ke apiako, koe hi ke ulava mea o whai e mea moe mea moe mea. Koe tok mea koe whamo oni mai ke atapani. Ka koe loto wheinga koe, moe loto mamahi i mea, ke kumia fo i hawhe maka koe nai talamai e ma ane nai. Koe whahinga mea ia o ku tō ia he loto o i toko taha ko toa pe o kuako he Tonga High School. Koe toki mea he ngahi tau mai ki mui ni ia, a hono ai koe o conceptualize, ai e wha i ka vei koula koe o i mo ui ai Tonga. Toki mea e ki mui hono o mai koe, o whamatala mai koe loto tō, koe mate aki mo e ai ngahi ka vei koe o i loto e Tonga. Toki o mai e ki mui hono mono tau whakamanatu mai mo hiki tohi. Ko mau taimi o mau tolu he ako, this was our life. Koe mea ia. Ta tau pe taimi ako, mo taimi koe, mo e toi fō watu koe o whai he, ai polokalama whai ako. Nā kei ke ako ia mo teu i tamasi i pe tahine ako, ko hi ke lava he CV. Nā e ako ia mo teu i ke mahu inga maarie ai mo ui, pea ne lava pe o whai e mea. And just get on and do it. Hange ko mea ko tokanga mai kia aina lau kia tapani. So it was more to be. I hanga koe e kuwakai atu. Koe Tonga High School ia, it was more to be a person of value, doing the best we can be. Pa koe whaunga koe, ko whakamalo pia mo hounga ia, i he whainga maarie o i hu ke Tonga High School. Ka koe ngahi mea ia ne osi tō pe ia, i he whainga maarie he mau e ongo mātua, na e ofa, na e mahu inga ia he ako. Pea na e tanu maki ke mo ui whakaapa pe mo ngau e mālohi. Pea tō whakamanatu pe mo mau si o tonu ai. Ko si e mau tupu hake koe whakaofa he masiva. Masiva he paanga, masiva he koloa. Kana e mahu inga au pito pe ke whakamahu ingai ai ki mea koe na mau. Koe koutunga ane si ina e ako atere pe ia. Nai whai ako tangata ai ki e tau e tolungofu maa ni manai i atere. Aia koe taimi koe mau tupu hake he koristonga na mau nofo ai, api ako nofo mau. Aia na e ako i pe, na mau ako pe mau tolu he tauhi taimi, mahu inga ia he taimi, mo e get into life of routine. He koe ne tāpe whawhangu koe a api ako ke ahe o no. Mau ho mau ki i loto api, mau ki i whare, ho mau ki api. O alo e whanau ako a te reno mau ia ki uta ngā ue ki mua panau o mai ki ako. Ka mau mau tolo teu, ke turi e ako ki Tonga High School. Koe mau tama koe sisi tahi a mau toluna e ako a tere. Pea kai ho a tā ia, he lunch koe ai ako he ku provide for ke lunch ia koe ai korisi. Mau tolu koe na e ako ki kolo. Koe mau mawahe koe ke turi ako ki kolo, kai si i wheiha kai whine eiki. Pe koe ki whoi kumala, pe koe ki whoi manioke. O ange ake ki ilai pere, o si lolo i Lelei, mo pe waha me i sipi ai pe i kai, pe koe ki whoi vesta polo pe. Koe kai ani, koe lunch ani koe a Tonga High School, ai ka wako Tonga High School. Hange ia he taimi koe ia, koe mea kai ani, koe mea kai whakena e masiva, koe mea pena e mao koe i api. Fe unga pe fo i mai ai taha he pongpongi mau tofi mau toko wha. tof pe ki foi mai Taha lava ki breakfast. Koe ke toia ha se nitia ke kum ha foi pai kolo pe ko sanuis ke kai. Kai si fei haka o ange. Toki ilo ia ki mui. Ta koe koe me e nai whakatupu ata mai Lelei. Ki he anga e o ako. Kai mausio fok mautol ha ue ai kau kolo ia ha nautol mo kai pai nautol me fare kolo a koe o hanga mai ke lau tohi pure anga koe anu alofa. Nau tu umari e nautol ka mausi i tau tupe folofola he lalo kasia o kai e ki mea kai ai masiva. Kana ka koe ngahi mea koe na e tō kaki i he tanumaki o moto ai Tonga High School. Hei kai toi mawaheia me he loto, he koe loto feinga, pia loto mateaki, ki he whakamahu inga i e mea koe mau. Pia manako mau pe ke whai e mea koe o Lelei Taha. Koe ki mea koe manatu ki ai saane malo au pito e mau whainga maari.
Malo au pito Silvia. Ai ngahi manat meri e ko ia ki he ngā ue ai whine e ki pia moe mātua. Kai ke ngata pe i ai ka koe mātua. Ta koe ku tau toki ako tau toki taimini ta koe lai pere ia moe ku malako ia o ku very nutritious angi ia. E fo i maa koe nai ngahi ake sanuisi mo mea koe ia pe ko ririu kako hange ko kulau koe ki mua. Tau wako mau pe. We never cease to learn. Ngahi Lelei pa moe ngahi i mea o ku totonu ke whakatawhetawe atu ngahi mea o totonu ke o mai ke tau ngawe aki. Pea moe hange ko lawe koe ki ai ki he tō kaki koe koe ki he Lelei Taha. Lea mo pe koe hae tau ngā ue koe tau whanki i whenga o whai o tau whenga pe ke whai aki o tau Lelei Taha. Pea hange pe koe nai lau ki ai a ema na mo Maricela ai ki fo i maka hafe maka koe ni rau whi mao pe koe ke mao e ki fo i hafe maka koe ia. Not so much ko ui ko ha nau whisi o whaki pe koe hafua i kai. Ka ko ui koe nau ongo i o ku nau whi mao ke nau whai ho nau Lelei Taha. Koe ai ema mo Maricela o tuku atu ke mo toe tānaki mai. Ko ui ko haia moa mo toe whi e tānaki mai. O ata ke e tāpe. Te ka pai tok whi humata pani e osi o mo tānaki mai ko ia kei a tāpe, malo.
Malo, pito whaine. Malo koe whotunga kehe pe o ngahi me a tatau pe tau i masi ai. Ai ko ku whanonga ki he paiwahe whekau aki pia moe roll koe ngahi mātu ai api. Pea o ku lawe mai ka te au. Ai mawhana tatau pe. Koe tainga nau tupu ake ai i he Tonga High School uko tainga whaingata ai a nofu mo. Nā lai nofu pe mo whine e ki. Pea koe mea na aku manatu aki ke whae. Koe whiwhine na ne hanga ia o ai e ako. Koe me ai o whaka o fo. Me keke ne hanga ia tā au pe te ne hanga o whakamalo he i au ke wako he. Me keke he whaea. Ka hanga whaea kuia o ai ako ia koe. Koe me a whaka ofa pe ia he. It's the only thing pa koe me a whaka ofa taha pe mamani ai ako. Pea, ka pate pati ta oto atu ke whai hana ki ti he whiawhi. Koe ki te pile masiwa fuki hane pea ki te pile uitou. Pahune te he male vai whine eki. Koe mea ko mao mai ki i ngā ue ko lava i. Koe me i pata pe lava vali ako mā. Ka ke ilo, ka pate ke ako, ke lava o maha me siamu o vali ake mā. Tausi o whāna. Taka pale ke ahe taha u tana e. Te ke alu he mau ofisi, te ke alu collect mai e ku toinga mahe. Te whamawhai i koe, pa te ke alu mo IT ke office lahi, pa te ke o mai ai ki toinga mahe. Ago alu weke me a atu IT, mai ne mahe, pa fuk mai moe ki atu. mai fine e ki ka ke ilo ko e o kia sila tatau te ia ia ho himoa o stona kia he e ki e sila ko e ni ka ke ilo ko ho IT ki ai ko e ako ka pau te ke ako e ho ko e IT ke alo o mai a ke sila ko e o kanga e ki o te o maha pena ngā aue fuki hu atontori he tau tongu fuki tupu hanga o hai ki mua. Anga ne taki holoa koe ke o awe koe he kene ki kuata na no wai Nane hanga o ngau e ake ngai Talanoa me lie ka mai koe sio ke piri sone pea hoko ia koe hopo ate anga e tangata ka kapau te ke ako koe ako pete ne lava vete ane ho piri sone me he mo ui fusi mo omo mo ui whaingata ia ka ngahi social ills koe mo ui hangi koe tā mali koe kai haa ngahi mea koe koe o ku lava koe ako tene lava vete ane sone o anga masitanga koe and she just made education, so sweet. It was just something like jam. It was like a liberating force. Ako koe hanga ya ko maha mali nai koe lahe mo kape o mane uta ko vai ko ke uta and you know what that me o se wa ko it won't matter but I get ha me uta fononga mai hala ma Taha ko ya ko it won't matter no la ko te na beste ani ngai Poko Talanoa me lie mai poko o whai mai mātua. O ai o ko ilo na enofo he po ate loki ko e o misi e ken tawa tai na ka enofo he loki ko e o misi te ako. Poko tātou mawa he maak me Tonga High me ko e ako pe ia vete ane Tau mui pehe hala koia. Anau oste I Tonga High ke ngā hawhai a maari. Skola sipi kau kai hawa fotutua e kiko tamai lewa nai kusila kai koia nani totonge kuako. Pea awele waku sila o ako ai no whama tangata e ki. Pea oste ai taimisi halewa he pule anga nusi la mai skola si pea taimi koe na o haoi ko ta whawasi ai koe tabi ana tolu he Bachelor of Commerce me Kokalani University of Auckland taimi koe ya who my level graduate recruitment e ANC koe mea na huai ai o CV au I Sila ai ngai o assessment ai ko tango na pass ai pa na te mai leva foki ki Tonga o tari mai ho ngau ai ki mata sana pa ko me ai na raku ai ko ki pe ke ko ku foki atu ko ki Tonga o ka topai o teu ki he ku sanwali o ku Piliu leva e fotunga ia e po Talanoa whai. Ai aku keke te whai e po slava ia ko ia. Ke te he leva e po Talanoa. O na keke me lava e tu hame a taha mate ia ko. O whai mo fuai. To just get an offer on your last year at school. You don't have to even look for a job. And you ta ilo betu kunga atamai ka kuke la pa ko e ki pe mai le ba ko fai he e ki ho me a ko koe le vai te ki whai mea I te ko pole I koe ki foi waha taimi gone mahi na tolu koe ke lawa nge tohi tapu ke osi. Okay. Kamata ko e whahe koe tohi tapu koe ke whai koe kamata. U aure ma whae ia ke pasi ka o ta ai kawe ko pole ako ano. Okay. Ate koe ki whai whekau, ki whai whekau ia. Oh, koe whia mao ke ma whakita mai ki te iki pe he ki whai mo. Mai I lewa ki. Hale whekau ia whakatawe ia mara. O awe au ia he hala. Aia koe ua ia hono review nai mani hanga impact mo ui ama whanonga mai. Aia whakatawe ia mai o marama. He mani mai. O ku sai a malanga. He kono uhinga ko nofo whakaukau atu pe te ngahi paanga pe me pongpongi ke po uri. Ko si tu pe te ne lava ta ofi a ho o. A te hanga malu I koe he taimi pe te hanga ia na mai paanga pongpongi ke po uri. Pea koe moto a rea whi mai ki tangi te hu koe ki ai ko ki ngā ka malu I koe mo na ue. Pea te ngā tau. Pero pa fale me te tanoa no ko. Malo ku ke lava aunga homo. Pea koe mea lewa whai, e oa te whanau e toko tolu ke hanga o tau hi whakalao. Ku ke ngā au e ke whanau e toko tolu ke hanga o tau hi whakalao. Pea I ho tau hi whanau ko ini, hanga lewa e he eki, e whakawale lewa ho aunga ke ngā ue a eki maau. Pea kai ke ngā tai, te me hanga hai ane I whanki tō onga kona koe o manusi roho mo o mi ke ino pe eko. Okay? So as you can imagine, Simon, at 21, I'm a teller in a branch. Oku hai au he ngā whatongia o malanga hoko. Pea koe ia mo ngā whatongia ki he tau hi whanau. I was a mother, I was a single mother at 21. Okay? It changed my life. You know, I started to mature fairly early. And then I tokonia because 2 years later, koe kamata ia e kumau e ki mo. So at 23, na e ave iau he international assignment o kamata I Vanuatu. I go for that way tonu, na ala no ki whanau, ma o ki Vanuatu, o ngā ue ai. Ka bane kei ke whamatu o tu a bane au he ta o Taha. I don't think I would have survived your alofahanga at 23. And the first job I had was the human resources manager in Vanuatu. Very different landscape. Tonga. Ko whawhetai pego e kina me hanga. Te puke au mo toka kaki. O a vai whanki na ka pā koe no ngā koe. Aia nai Oscar Vanuatu. Pea hoku mai ki whanua e tōru, tānak mai ki ai. O alu pe whanki whanua na toka ngari. O alu whanua e taha tōru. O mao whainga maali e pehe. E toka ngari. Whanki whanua e masiki. Pau te Hawaii ki Australiani. So another change that was a significant milestone is now in my hoko. Koe nai fo I lakanga nai ame au ki ai. Ko head of learning and development I he region. Aia ko ngā we ko no o mai e ako anga ai polokarama ako mo training mo upskill. Ai mau ka ngā we ka toa he pasiki. Ai ko whanua taha tōru. Ngā ue wāwhe tō mea. Keu hanga toka mai. But when I found for all 5 for was because now if one of my eye was Fakalotolahi, so Fakalotolahi ni te Pacific, I go that was there my I thought Taha the Pacific Nationals yeah Lelei Taha ya na ufonua there on my level the fast track now tolo now CEO que na wo o ligi when I ula fetong e ka nga when my expatriate roles was pretty demanding but the time you go now nga we mo na tolo I about the hema go go fie go CEO we are hamoa that way e wa me him but when nga we le ko no te we are the CEO we have more also that way. It was very rewarding. Go Talanoa ki ai, ko tai ni na wo fia ki ka tale ni ti pe Pacific. Pe au I lo ai ngahi Talanoa. They had to be honest with. But I lo ai ngahi me a go na lava succeed. But I ngahi me a go na lava succeed. Yeah, but behele ba oh. I can say about it or hang a fat or tohio. That naki ya ngahi I lo ai ka. Ke toko ni ki he ke hako tubu mai ka nau when you know our specific nationals of our aspire without progress in my multinational organizations. But kumi le like funding na e ha offer the amas the our high level research so naki ko hanga umea o kume help managers succeed. Pacific Island managers succeed, particularly women from the Pacific. And I go there, I got to finish what they are not only from the Talanoa or for do I thesis what makes them successful. Anyway, the thesis Victoria University. Bagadawe kono te awe apiako na now fetutaki mai ke hao on my outstanding award, student award ki ai. Bagadango now hao I go or receive an award for ya. Then I behave my level. But I now it's time for us to the transition but behave my level if you know what you can do? And I was like, what? I don't know how I'm going to get but they hang out apply and they are going. Because you are the lava of my voice my on CV if it really works. Yeah, you've written a paper about it. Can you just try and stand on it? And that's why I feel it was another milestone for me. I don't go Fakalotolahi big eye, and then I went back. I went back when you came I spent 18 months of fire and then when I asked it. When they also 18 months, they are on my level offer me office me. You hit him out now when I still how I have about them north of Fakalotolahi. Tokonia at Tonga High. Tokonia Tonga High or reinforce the going like the other side. On a two fata fae mo Tonga High. Tokonia no. Otaki mai o pao toho atu itahi. They fuafai te now for Doma going Vanuatu. And sorry to Papua New Guinea is wonderful. I spent 4 years there with my children. Toho mai ki po pao how ti pao what you did o how ni pa pa di tin pa just so ta waki ya o fala ya ki o hen mo hoa ko viri tamasi yuhina ku mali ki ko mo tua ya ku na to tolo e fa nau na ko to ko smali si lahi o ki uai ki pene ma ke no fo o na ko he di fanya mali ya ko ko na taki mai ai ki po pa o mai ki ka tole ya ko ki ai ba he fa tu o te ia ki he to ko ni ai ko ki o mai ki fo no mai Aloha pito sai.
Aloha pito Emma. Aloha pito e Talanoa mahalia. It never ceases to amaze me e ngahi hala mo ngahi opportunities o whakahawa e o toa kia te koe ka o maho ki whamiri na mo e hala whanonga ko ke whoa. Tau whia ka toa he tau whanongo ki ngahi Talanoa manatu meri e ke koheri mo e anga o whanonga mai mo ngahi contribution o anga o train ka managers I he panke mo hala koe mo ke au mai and all the best to you. Ka o tupane mo he ka maresela ka taki pe ho sai pe ko koe pe kusisi Taha ka ke hanga e ko toki whai mai ha Talanoa a uia o ku toi maari e ange ke tau whanongo ki a he whiawhini maresela. Over to you, Malo.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I just want to say I totally agree with the thing of having your parents support you with your education. So I would say that I attribute a lot of my success academically to the fact that I had parents who valued education and who did everything that they could to make sure that we had a stable and as supported an environment at home in order to flourish in our studies. So we kind of, in my family, we kind of joke about, in my immediate family, we joke about it because Dad went to uni. He originally, he was in Tonga High School and then had gone to India and took like 8 years to do, I think he was sent there to do civil engineering, ended up coming home with, after 8 years with, I think it was only a diploma in something else, or I can't even remember. Anyway, I think it was a diploma in electrical engineer. And so we have this running joke, and Mum never went to uni. So we kind of had this joke about how strict they were about our education when, especially my mum, when we were always like, Mum, you never even went to uni, so why are you trying to force us, right? But she would always say to us, it's because I didn't go to uni that I value you guys actually doing well in school. So my memories of growing up, in particular in Tonga, was that even when we lived in Baha, my parents, my dad worked in town. So he would usually drop us to school in the morning, and then Mum would come in from Baha in the evening, in the afternoons, to pick us up. And it was like such a long drive back in those days, or sometimes we would have to wait around at school till Dad finished work at 5. And so when I think about that, those 3 or 4 years that we lived in Baha and we traveled back and forth Monday to Friday, and my mum was a full-time stay-at-home mum. She always made sure that we had, you know, clean uniforms, new uniforms. She sewed like her father. So we never had trouble with clothes. She would make us, you know, and all these, I think these little things mattered, because when you went to school, if you weren't worrying about your lunch or, you know, being hungry and whether you know, had the right uniform or just other bits and pieces that were required for school, when you didn't have to worry about that, you could channel all of your energies and concentration and attention into actually applying yourself academically. So in that sense, I think I had it good because of my parents. and the environment that they created for us. At the time, I didn't appreciate it because I felt like, oh, so many of my friends get to, you know, go here and there, and they have like so much more of a social life, whereas my parents were pretty strict. We ran a pretty sheltered life, where it was goyako be moel gi he misa. We were Catholic, and then you come home and you do your homework. You know, after school, the routine was you get picked up, you come home, mum's prepared a snack, go to your room, do your homework, come out, have dinner, bath time, bedtime. Like there was no mucking around. And so reflecting on that, I think even at the time, I didn't appreciate it. I can look back and say, like, thank you to my parents for providing that for us. As for my experience in Tonga High, I think I can't say that I really valued education as such, and that I was fully aware of the benefits of it. I think I just kind of landed myself in a place, especially when we went back to Tonga and I went into Tonga High School. Before that time, I never really experienced the thing of competitiveness in school, because here in Australia, they don't do prize giving prize giving days, and you don't really get ranked in class. In Tonga, that's a big deal, right? So my first experience of it when I went to Tonga High School and then being told, oh, you topped, you got the highest mark for this, so you got the highest mark for that. It suddenly became a thing. And obviously I started to catch on, because every time I did well, my parents would be super proud. And then it just became a thing that, you know, every prize giving ceremony, there was just this expectation, like, you're one of the top students, so we expect you, like, which prizes are you going to win this year? And funny enough, like when I was first starting out in Tonga High School and into my early years in Tonga High, there was a girl in my year level, Salome Tukwafu, who was actually the top ranked student of our year. So I never managed to quite beat her. So every year I would kind of like come second to her in almost everything, which I think at the time, I'm not personally that ambitious and that competitive. I'm pretty diligent when given the task and the challenge. So I used to experience my parents, like, the pressure to, you know, do your best. You better come first this time. And it was so much pressure. I used to just say to them, I can't beat her. Like, what part of I cannot beat her do you not get? And I mean, I kind of sometimes say that the only reason I even got ducks of my year level is because Salome left. She left, I think, after Form 4. I felt as if, I mean, there were obviously other really brilliant students around in our year level, but she was the one person that I never managed to beat academically. And so when she left, I kind of felt like, to some extent, the competition was gone. And then I kind of felt like, okay, now I can kind of cruise a bit. So in that sense, that was kind of my experience towards the end of high school. As I mentioned earlier, you know, I'm grateful for the years in Tonga High, because besides all the, you know, the great friendships that you have, I think just the Tongan culture and the Tonga High School culture in particular is very much about gaining people, grouping people up, and people just cheering one another on, right? We just, like, just the past few months where, you know, they had the whole Teke Hai thing. It's just amazing to see that kind of support. I think that's one of the things I really appreciate. And so, yeah, I really appreciate learning all those things, in particular from Tonga. And then just, it's interesting how the culture mixes into all of that stuff. When I was in my last year of high school, I was part of, like I mentioned, I was deputy head girl. Our head boy and head girl at the time were Sunia Foliaki and Celia Mafleo, Holani now. And I was deputy. I was also on our school quiz team where you competed against other high schools in the national quiz team, where they used to broadcast it on radio. And one time we were asked to practice, and it was during school holidays. We were there doing practice, and one of the teachers had given, there was 5 of us in the team, and only 4 of us were there that day. She'd given us the keys to her car and asked us to go and sit in her car and listen to the radio, just to spruce up our general knowledge for the general knowledge questions. Anyway, one of our team thought it would be a good idea to take the car for a ride to go and pick up our 5th team member who was running late. And I mean, I think at the time I actually didn't really think much of it, because I just passively sitting in the back of the car, listening to the radio, and just thought it was kind of like funny that we were going. I didn't take into account just obviously the seriousness of it. But lo and behold, we went, and we took too long. By the time we came back, we got into massive trouble. I think the Ministry of Education was actually having a meeting at Tonga High School that day. So we got into big trouble, and I think they had to make sure that, we felt the consequences. So all 4 of us in the car were kicked off the quiz team. It was a huge test to our humility, because, the first thing you want to do is say, well, stuff you guys, I don't want to help. I'm not going to support the team anymore. We had to suck it up and still turn up to the quiz team games, to the practices, in order to help the next lot who got selected, the reserves who came in and then took over the rest of the competition for our school. So, I mean, I look back on that as a great learning opportunity in humility for me, because, initially it was kind of like, well, no, you know what, I'm not gonna help out. On top of that, because I was a prefect, I was also demoted, and we were suspended from school for 2 weeks. But they let that one, they kind of said, okay, we'll suspend you from school for 2 weeks, but we won't do it over the school term. We're in school holidays, so we'll just count that as your suspension. So that was probably my first experience of ever getting into trouble in Tonga High. I was your typical goody two-shoes student who did well academically, never really got up to any no good. And then in my final year, I go and do that. And my parents were furious. I think they threatened at one point to pull me out of the school. But I was so in love with my friendships and just being part of the Tonga High community, I refused to go anywhere else. At the time, my brother after me had already moved to Up for All, because he wasn't, I guess he wasn't as ambitious academically as the rest of me and my siblings. He felt that he had better chances of playing rugby if he went to Up for All, rather than staying in Tonga High, because during my years, Tonga High wasn't really known for its sports talent. Maybe netball we were known, but rugby, I don't think they won too many shields. And just even during inter-college sports, I think there's there's a few here and there, but you knew the schools that dominated in inter-college sports, and Tonga High was not up there. I was a lot more pleased to see in more recent years that Tonga High seems to be one of the schools that does a lot better. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the impression I got. So yeah, I guess just those kind of memories of being in Tonga High. I thought it was really amazing that they, when I did finish and I finished as Dux, that prize giving ceremony that I attended, I think that might have been the first time that they changed up the prize giving and they got you to go stand up at the front and the school did a cheer for you. I think that that's something that then they've done more of since then, but I don't remember that being necessarily the thing that they did before. Year 2000 was also the year that the school burnt down. So I don't know what that says about my my year level and our cohort. But yeah, so I mean, overall, those are great memories for me, and great, more than memories, like amazing learning experiences. And by God's grace, very sanctifying experiences, which I would say has attributed to really molding me into the person that I am today. I think being in Tonga High, having that level of just competitiveness, or just such a value for education, just then obviously fed into me going to uni. It's almost like there's no question about it. Like, you go to Tonga High, of course, the expectation is you go on to uni. And luckily for me, I then managed to get a scholarship. At the same time, my family was already planning to move back here to Australia. And the rest is kind of, well, history, in the sense that I went to uni. And I think it's funny. I mean, my husband is white Australian, but we joke about this thing where he says, like, ethnics are just a lot more hardcore when it comes to education. Like, you know, he grew up, his parents hoped he did well, but they didn't, like, you know, nag him about it. Whereas, you know, for me, I said to him, when I got the scholarship was for accounting. My dad said something along the lines, I'm not trying to throw shade his way, but typical Tonga dad said something like, oh, you can't just do accounting. Like, what kind of ducks of Tonga High just does accounting? Like, you should look into it. So of course he did my application by VTAC, I think it was called, and I got into Monash Uni to do a double degree in commerce law, because of course, if you are the ducks of Tonga High, you are either expected to become a lawyer or a doctor. You know, just that typical stereotype. And I remember my parents, like, you know, like you mentioned, Emma, something about, you know, social life. My parents would always be saying to me all throughout high school, don't worry about boys, just focus on your studies. When you finish your studies, you can get a boyfriend. Then I go to uni and there's still the same things. They're saying, don't worry about a boy, just finish, get your degree. And then when you start work, you can get a boyfriend. And it's like, okay, hang on. Like, so it looks like I'm never going to be allowed to have a boyfriend. Like, just say that, don't keep giving me hope. So it's funny, like, you know, my dad said something along the lines of, why don't you just do the double degree at Monash, because you're still really young, you don't have a boyfriend, so what else are you going to do with your life, basically? And, you know, obviously at 18, 19, I kind of figure, well, he's right, you know, what else am I going to do with my life? I might as well go to uni and you know, do well, hoping to please my parents. But I think it was through that experience of coming from Tonga, where you're a lot more sheltered. We moved here, I went into uni. It's, you know, Monash Uni, Clayton, huge place. You're a nobody there. I was really homesick. I discovered that I do a lot better when I'm around my close-knit community, which I really felt that disconnect. The people that I felt closest to here in Melbourne are my family. A lot of them didn't go to uni. My cousins, my age. So there was that struggle of my home life feels completely disconnected to my uni life. At uni, I'm friends with, you know, all these, there wasn't many Tongans that I knew there initially. So I really struggled with that transition. And just, yeah, I guess immaturity. I ended up not finishing the commerce law course, basically got kicked out, asked what I wanted to do, and I just kind of gave up on everything. I said, I'm taking a year off to figure things out. And so I think it was during that time that I would say that I really grew in my faith as a Christian. Before then, I think having grown up just in a Tongan family, in a typical Tongan family where church is very much part of your life and your culture, I didn't really take it personally for myself in a sense. So it was during those years that I really matured as a Christian, and I would say probably became a Christian and matured as a Christian. And so like one of the questions I guess you had, Sane, was, what's something that you would attribute your success to outside of Tonga High School? And I would say it's my faith. It informs everything that I do now and the choices that I make. Sounds cliche, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think now I still really enjoy reconnecting. I've got 3 of my best friends from Tonga High School all the way through Tonga High School. We've kind of reconnected about, 4 or 5 years ago. And we talk all the time, and it's just fun, like reconnecting, seeing where everyone's at, bringing up the old stories, like Dabani mentioned, who had a crush on who and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's funny because I think when I was in school, because I came from a pretty strict family, I never got to date anyone in high school. And in hindsight, I kind of think, oh, that's probably a good thing, because they've got no dirt on me. But yeah, so anyway, I thought that was just all I wanted to add. And it's just, it's really nice listening to you guys sharing, especially Sylvia and Dabani, because I think it gives me a greater appreciation for the struggles that your generation went through. Just to get ahead academically. It makes my story kind of feel a bit like I was handed everything pretty easily, and I still managed to stuff it up. So there you go. Thanks. Goya besane.
Malo apito Maricela and Talanoa Fakalotolahi kweni. And also I'm very interested how Talanoa can transition in life and liliu he anga ui he hala whanonga koena. And then also toe giving you the opportunity to grow your faith. I see that it's very important. He tau ngahi mo ui Taha, peka tau mo ui whatau Taha aku kia te au matu ak mau inga aupito, and I'm sure Fafikau and Emma and Tapani will agree with me. Kuhi mo ngahi opportunities kono whakahawa tu ke te koe o ke ngawe aki Lelei, pe mo ngahi tokoni o matua I he taimina ke tutupa ke ai, even up to now mo ngahi mea ku hoko ke o mo uika ku whawhitai mo whamalo ko hia ko ngahi Lelei ko toa o ke mau, not only na mau I he o tutupa ke I Tonga, but also here pea moe apia kona ke ako ai pea o ke ho ke university. I'm sure na ke mau pe mea mahi mea ko ia lava o ke ho lava mea I ahoni ka ko toi tu watu whainga maari ka pau te ataha toi fia tāna ki mai o kai ke toi fulolo a tau taimi o kutoe o ku ata pe tapani ko sio pe mahau ke toi tokanga mai ke toi tāna ki mai ha mea. Pau ke tau ane ha taimi lahi ke tapani ko hi ko ngai futau lahi ko eni experience mo ngahi ene hala whanonga ku pau ke tau whanongo ki ai malo au pito.
Malo au pito sane. Ngai Talanoa whakafofa e whakamawhana he tutunga pe koe ni he na tau hu mai ki hea ko miau ko pau kai ko fie kai mua ni ka ko o ia pe mahalo e whanga ki pare ki tau motua ko tau fitu tolu fongia ni pau. But anyway, pau ko Talanoa ko aselau whakafofa awito pe tatau peki whawhikau pe mo ema. Ko fie tāna ke tupe mea koe ni hono koe hā hono uhinga o I ki hele rei Taha ki au. Ko te uro I pe ko hai o ku whakaukau ta tau mo au te kai. Ka koe taimi lahi o ku whakaukau wai. Ko hai na ni hanga o a koi au. Ko paanga a hai mo ka kawa o hai na ni a koi au. Kai ka paanga I hau whamiri. Kai ka paanga I hau kolo. Pe ko whema o ke mohanga I lo pe tawe mo ka whanongo. Ko mea ni ko hanga ko tohi. I he ku tohi kuno ko memoir, my memoirs. E whakaukau, ko hā no hinga ki he Lelei Taha ki au. O ko whakaukau au, ki he ki whine eiki, nai fua kolukalu I whangauta. Pea nā iai ne kofu kolukalu hongo fulu. Pea nā tō mea e kata kolukalu taha. Ki a koia ki au. Nā iai, toko taha. Inu koe tulu. Nā iai ne kato mei. Pea whakatau. O tō mei hāwhoi mei e taha pe hua. Ki a koia ki au. Kako pānga ia mangis. Pea mausini ia mautau. Pea pau pe au. Nā masiva whewhe. Nā toke taha au tamai. Pea whanoa e whahinga tana toenga o kakai. O kua whakaukau au ki he whine iki I tonga le reka. Walo whai ene āka wheke. Tau o tō mei ai. Ai paanga ki a koia ki au. Pea ko whakamu ki ai hata hape. Mua tōlahi e ho kaunga ako whangatoko hua. Whangatoko whawhine. O nau ki nofo hifo. O ki tō hake ai hui kapeloto koe anau Simone. O nau ki pō Talanoa pe mo ki nau tōru. Pe ko haina ne ha koe koe. Ne kai ki a koe au ia e o whamiri. Ne a koe au e ka kai tonga. Pe ki ai pe au mau whangamari e koe o mau e taimini. Pe ki ai koe uhinga Lelei Taha ki tapanu. Alu koe na kuosi whakotutu. Koe ko foundation neni kuosi ai e Tonga High School. Ke alu kumo moui. Alu whahe Lelei Taha. Pe koe Lelei Taha ki au. Ko ai ke poto he kakau. Pe ko poto ko he kakau. Pe lava rewa ke kau whaki hatake. I kai te ke lava o kau whaki pe hatake ka pau ke ware he kakau. Koe fwoi whakatatai o ko whakaamu ke tuu pia. Kai ke he o kai ko hatangata potoa na reke pako whewhe au. Ka kou whamanata ke motoru ko taimina ke hua ke Tonga High School pe tau pe ka whanongo. O ku ke kau ko he kulupu koe ni e a ko I koe e whonua. Pake manatui a ki he Lelei Taha ko ne manatui peni a au ia ki au ko interpretation ke tau taha peni. Pako mena ko whakaamu ke honga tohi a ngai whakaukau peni. Ko taha ngahi mea whamamahi taha ke te au e nofa mong family. Ko kei honga I loi tamai. Ko uhinga ia, ko motivation ia ko ne o mai ki au ke o honga wha o tohi koe ni ko manatu Maria series. Ko no uhinga, ko memoir a aku, ma hoku family, mai kolo, mai whonua. O kai kia ha, ko memoir koe na aku, it's not fictional. O wikai ko Talanoa noa ia pe, tui moikuini, ia e natama, bla bla bla. Ko Talanoa ni a aku ke mea nai hoko ki au I he eku mokui. Pea ko mea koe ke nai hoko ki au, ko mea nai hoko ki he toko tahake hi vai ni, ka matatau pe ne afu wawau, pe ko whia. Na nau mapu whetau, na nau mapu whotulono, na nau mapu talatala amoa. Pe na nau tori mango, pe na nau tohi mai a toko tahake te au, pe mai, tawan malo, o ke hanga taki au ki ke taimi ko ni ko na mau tari manga wai he apo mea na ia o tangai mau na ia o na mo mau fetau o framu ke ko mahawinga ni ko kia na kai ke waka ia me he Tonga High School. Biology was my best favorite subject, but it set the foundation for me to find my soul, to find who I am, and now I tick all the boxes, all because of my experience at Tonga High School. Na lave fai whekau ke masiva, na mau masiva mato. Ai whine i ke pongpongi, ai whangi stau pamu primus, stau kalasini, o fai whai haka. Ange peko mea na lave fai whekau. Pae whawhangu ke ako, pe na aka ato ai pe. Pe pe mato, taimi ki alu tamai ki hei ngā ue. Mau a pe mato te teo ki ako. Pe mahalo ko hinga na kai ke futokanga ki ako. Ko hua tau ko ke hapia ko he ono noa. O si ai a uhi lai au si ai. Ia si futoko hongo fulu ke hei me hea wātolo una o si ai. Me ko kolo ka ato peni. It was more than anybody else mahalo me hifo ka ato. Me feitu maui i nukualofa. O lere ai pe ki hata. Pa ki hata ai Tonga High School. Ki aula ula ki ai. Pea ko e ko hua atua ko he ono noa. Ko o si ai toko me toko hongo fulu ia ai. Uhilot palau soniava kuri hufanga matu siosi pea au pea mu. To ia toko ono he hufanga siblings na waka Tonga High School. Na kai ke te tongi e mautolu. Ko hinga koe e ku pe ko whakaheni e ki mautolu. O tonu ke tau whakaukau pe ko hai ane forgive did not have to give 2 breadfruits out of their basket of breadfruits selling to feed their family in Fuane Kaminga. Ke a ko ia ki au. Pea ko mea o mahawinga o peke ngā lohe mōwi. Ke uhanga o tatonge mōua ko ia. Pea o whaipe toko ni pea whakawhaitu pehe ngai whongo ke. O sia e ku whakahoko a whakaamu ai a ko ki au e interpretation a ku. Ko hoku Lelei Taha ni. Toko ni kau family he whapaanga. Toko ni ki kolo, toko ni ki hama. O sko ia toko ni peki Tonga High School. Pea kou whema ke toko ni ki kakai hon whakalofua. Ai ki whine iko me niu Tonga Rereka, pe motungua, o ku to'o me iai. Ai mea taisi aine ke a koi a ki au. Te ka pamna ko ngoi au ko masiva na toke tāu tamai. Waino kuna iai pe ai whaingai na kai ke aka na kai ke iha ngā ue na o mātua. Na toi whakatu tā maki ange ia. Te ko manatu meri ki he Talanoa whaiwhikau ki nau ki haka na e hanga he nau whine iki o ngahi. Hengi o toki whakalere mai ki nau kai. Te ko ana si taha ko he tōtou na rogi ai o tualau mo siosi pe mo matu. Pea ko ana o tō koe whupiri. Pau whape mai tulo. E kau mea he lori. Nau sai tama e tau piri tawani. Ko me iri ia whupiri ki lalo. Ai ke he. Whai koe. Ai lunchtime. Pa te whakaukau a piki ai. Na iai ai toko lahi ia i he api ako. Na i o mai koe meu. Ta mahalo pena ia na mea toko ni peikai. Pea ko tui e taimi lahi. Ko talu pia e ko ngā maa koe na nau mahi pongpongi. Toki whoki pia o kai i api e fiafi. Pea ko ngoi mawhasia hoku sino mo atamai he whakaukau. He riaki moui. Ai whamiri. Ke whinga ia ki koe. E sela. Mo sane. Pea mo ema. Mo i whaisekau. Pea mo i talo utolape. Na tau waka Tonga High School. Ko whaam i ua ngalo ia mo tolu. Ko hinga ia koe kia te au. Ai ki he Lelei Taha. Wa ke whemau ia. Te ke lava pe ko ia ho toko ni o whai aki pe tō taha pe a koe. toi ki ha family ki na nga o whakahoko hao whia mau whiwhai ki Tonga pea kai he mō kata ko mawhana ko hiko ko ngai pia pēri ko whia mau ko mea whakamui ko vai pea wao ke tepi ko whenga koe ni ke whai e tohi koe ni hoku memoir pa ko ka whia a taha peu whanau mai pia mō ki mō tolu pea ko os fotu publishing company koe ke mau hampa anga e me ai ko mea peu wai ai ke whangafua e ko ngā puluse ko mea koe ni ko hui ke hanga tala i ko Talanoa. My story is important. Your story is important. You matter. You do matter. You are the only one of your kind in the whole world. Your family, you owe it to do it for your children or your grandchildren and all of Tonga. Imagine if all of Tonga High School write their memoirs. Can you imagine? The whole history of the place will be done. We don't need Palangi people to come and write about you. Pea koe na ko si hanga he kakai Tonga katoa, whinei koe ni mei Tonga le reka alua a wheke. Pea koe whiwhine mei whola me kolo o pioneer. Nai alua a paka he o Tonga o koe hia, pea tō mea paka taha ke a ko ia ki au. Ko hau mei whi ia ke hanga e tangata koe ni o fua i kapenga. I owe them. And I intend to pay it back as much as I can. Pea ko no hinga ia o tohi. O kai ko hinga ke mau me hau panga, ko ke hapanga ia hai. Pea ko pao ki whi whau ha tohi. Pea ko whau na more, te ke tolong pe ko he kai ke hapanga i te ke mau me ai. Ko mea pete ke mau me ai, hange ko mea kono ko mau me ai. Ko ho whia maari e ilo ho whanau a koe. Nā o ka ke honga ilo e ku tamai. So, o ka mea o mahu inga au pito kia te au. Ko no hinga e o ko whao e koe toi. E mo wadak o pehe ko te ngata ai ka tuat ke tātana ki mai ai Glasgow e malo sane ma taimi pea ngari mea pe ko hina nei ko hoa tolu pata ai atu ke hoa ono ke nau ilo
malo tapani kapana tau pure ke polo kala mam hante tau bele tau toi hoa ono pe ko hoa hiva ka ko hiu ko ngai ngata ia ki ngai polo kala ma peheni. I think it's a good note to end. Ko no te ka tau tol ke tau fa o sa ki anga I ya kona ki mau inga ko eni o toi fa manatu mai tapan ka te tau tol. And I'm sure we are all very, very grateful and very honored I he tau ngahi wausia ko tau wausia ngai ahoni, all because when we look back ko hi ke ngai whanonga mo e kakai na nau sacrifice, nau ngai mo ui mo e nau ngai taimi ko uhi ko ki tau tolu. O tau whawhitai mo whamalo e ngai whainga maari e ko ia. Ka ko e kono mo oni he kai ke lawa au o sum up e ngahi mana tu meri e pa mo ngahi experiences ko mo Talanoa mai ki ai o kai ke mausia e atamai ko ni ka ko tui o ku tau wako e ngahi ni alahi. Ka whaamu pe ko hi ko e kau whanongo mai even mo tamai ki ako ka pau na whanongo mai ki ngahi talatalai whare mo ngahi mea lelei ko mo tuku mai ki e polo kalama ko ni ko ua te whakamalo mo loto honga ia au pito mo tuku taimi. Ko ilo ko mo ua ko ngahi mo ngai mo ua ki mo taimi ki mo whamiri ya mo ngahi commitment ke he ka mo fie kau mai I Talanoa ko eni ko hipe ko whai me meripoane ai au tau whakautua ai. O ko I kai ke tai ai ha me ta ko whakamalo pe whakamalo whoki kia nau tolo nau a toka ngā e polo kalama ko ia RoadToFaaimata hana te o mai kono tu o mai ni ai whainga maari e nei tupu mai ki meripoane na ai o si whai e ura ki kamata na kau mai ki ai ki oa pia mo pesi pia mo hema Pea na i ai fok mo purita na e hiva. Pea mo ne whai ai mai hiva whakalotu. He taimi ne whai ai lotu. Ka koe ahoni. Whamalo ke whaiwhikau ko hia koe ne lawa whai e tatai lotu. Pea koutou kore pe ki ai ke ne whakaosi mai e tau lotu. Aki te lotu tāpuni pea osi apa te tokore ka nia ofa pe ku ke a mania he background. Nau kore pe ki ai ke ne toka ngai mai e tau teknolosia. O kuhui ai ki fo i hiva whakakata pe ia koe ki hiva manat meri e meri poane. Ki he RoadToFaaimata ka pau o kei mau e fo i te piko ia pa tā i mai nia ka rewa ke whai e tau lotu tuku ka kore ka sirivia ke ne whai mo e tau lotu tuku he whafkoe ni. Malo au pito.
Malo au pito ke tau lotu. E ki o tua mau whakamalo atu pe mo e loto o ku hounga ia. Hounga ia i he ngahi mea kotoa pe ku mau whanongoa i he ngahi lingi loto mo e manatu merie. Ki he ngahi mea na e tōkaki ki he mau ngahi mo ui lorotonga ho mau taimi i he apiako mau ofai. Malotat ke tāpue kina mai a Sela, mohono whamiri. Emma, mohono whamiri. Peke a Sane, mohono whamiri. Pea mo Tapani foki, mohono whamiri. Tāpua ki mai, ai pure ako, kauwhai ako, o e apiako mo e whanau ako, apiako lolotonga. Pea pehe foki ki he ngahi whamiri kotoa pe, o e kau ako tutuku, o e whunga Faaimata. O mauloto atu hi, ko e pō Talanoa manatu merie o e whiawhini. Whakatawange ke hoko e mau ngahi manatu, e mau tala loto, ko ha mea ia ke ne Fakalotolahi i ki mau tolo, mo mau ngahi kau ngā whanonga. Ke mau manako, maupe, pea whoaki e mau moui maupe, ke whai ho mau Lelei Taha, ke he taha kotoa pe, he wheitu kotoa pe, he taimi kotoa pe. Ko ia e mau lotu, i e wawhau sisu klaisi ko mau whakamoui, ko ia ho mau wako anga o e Lelei Taha. Amen.
Amen. Malo au pito Silvia. Mia. Pau ke hena pa ke tae mai e asi.
Melipoane te ki pea tau olunga. Isa o kuhounga, Tonga High o to ana. Siu pele tai amoni, eta mata ikoloa. Siu pele tai amoni, eta mata ikoloa.
Malo koe anga pia tau whakaanau atu me puaneni ki he tau teu katoanga i he tau kahauka i ke tau ilo i pe awa tau pōta ki ai pe i kai ka koe tau anga pia tau whakaanau. Ka whamalo atu ka motolo he lava lelei e tau polokalama o e whiawhini. Whatawange ke mo mao ha weekend lelei mo ha sapate keresi ia mo monu ia. Au ofa atu. Malo au pito.
Malo au pito ki ake, malo atu ki he tau engineer. Malo.
Thank you, Stella, and thank you, Emma.
Tani malo au pito. Stella, malo au pito.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Bye.
Tau ki